Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona Idrisi, author of the Muslim Narcissist book and empowerment coach for Muslims. In today's podcast, I'll be speaking about the reverse discard. So this is a highly requested subject. People want me to dive deeper into this. So inshallah, this will give you the understanding and the closure that you need. Okay, because I know so many people go through this. And this podcast, as always, comes with a trigger warning. Okay, so this might sting a few people, it might hurt, it might bring back some old, memories that you don't really want to think about. But if you're here searching for closure and understanding, then try and listen to it to the end, even if you do so in chunks, okay? Because the subject of the reverse discard is painful, especially if you were holding on to someone whom you loved, only to realize later that they were reverse discarding you. It's not a nice thing to know, but I know a lot of clients especially have really healed from understanding this process, because as I always say, when you understand, you have the tools to be able to heal and move on. When you don't understand, you stay stuck in a lot of mental turmoil and depression, because you're always asking yourself, what happened? Was it my fault? Why did he or she become like that? Why did our relationship end? And all of that. Okay? So understanding this is so important for your healing journey. So as always, if this podcast does benefit you and help you, please do click on that like button, because it helps these videos to be shown to other people who need them. And do subscribe to the channel if you'd like to be notified about future podcast releases. You can sign up to the newsletter on the website as well. If you need one-to-one counselling and coaching, just reach out to me. There's a link below where you can submit an application, or my email address is there, so you can reach out to me directly. And if you haven't read the book already, The Muslim Narcissist, do grab a copy. It's available in Amazon and many other bookstores, alhamdulillah. Right, so let's get into it. I will start off by defining what a discard is. Okay, so a discard is taken from the Narcissist dictionary, and it literally means to end a relationship in a way that makes a victim feel like they're being discarded, like yesterday's trash. Okay? So narcissists aren't people who can end relationships in a kind, civil, and compassionate manner. They have to discard. And when they discard, they do it with the intention to cause maximum pain. They want to make you feel replaceable and low value, and they want you to make you feel worthless, like you're nothing special. So when they discard you, it's usually because the supply has ended that they have been obtaining from you. Now, which narcissists do this? Only the overt and the malignant. Okay? So only these two types of narcissists, the ones who are openly narcissistic, the ones who brag and they're very grandiose and they don't hide their narcissism, they do it. And so do the malignant ones, the ones who are cruel and beastly, and they physically and sexually abuse their family members. They are the ones who dramatically and brutally discard their husbands and wives and other people as well, like friends, colleagues, and other family members. They do it because the discard holds a lot of power. So, for example, a man might discard his wife over something very petty. Maybe she didn't obey him in something petty, or she answered back or something, and he kicked her out of the house in the middle of the night. He packed her bags and told her to leave. Or he sent her packing to her family house. Or he issued a talaq over something petty. Or he'll take his machine gun for talaqs out and issue 20 talaqs in one go to prove a point, right? That I'm discarding you, I don't want you, I hate you, get out of my face. I'm giving you so many talaqs to show you how brutally I'm discarding you. And they do this for maximum distress. Okay, that's why it's so brutal. That's why the discard is quite painful for many victims, because they are so dramatic when they do it. Okay, now women do this as well. Women can ask for divorce so many times in one go. They can really intimidate a man, push him into a corner, and scream at the top of their lungs, demanding a divorce. And they'll say to him, if you're a real man, you'll divorce me. And they will do it so many times until a man just issues a talaq. Now, in that moment of time, they mean it. Okay, these are women who want to show you that you're being discarded in that moment, because they really do want out. Okay, maybe they have been caught out cheating, for example. Okay, a lot of women do this. You catch them with another man and she goes crazy. She hates the fact that she's been caught and she's ashamed. So she's the one who's now discarding you. And you're thinking, hold on, you're the one who's just been cheating. Why are you discarding me? But it's out of shame. So if they are the ones who discard you, they still hold the power, even though they're the ones in the wrong. Okay, you'll find a lot of people who do this. They are the ones who commit the sin or do the wrong, but they're the ones who kick you out. They're the ones who demand a divorce. They're the ones who issue a divorce. They're the ones who break up with you and sever ties and block you and cut you off. And you're thinking, but you're the ones in the wrong. That's how they escape accountability. And then, of course, they blame it all on you. Now, you also get other overt narcissists who aren't malignant. They are the ones who just love to show off, and they're not evil as such. They're just annoying. They're nauseating to watch on social media because they're so in love with themselves. And they have a very high level of arrogance. They think they're better than everyone. They think they deserve the best. They have a grand sense of entitlement. So if you are in a relationship with them, or you're talking to them or considering them for marriage, and they meet someone whom they deem as being better, they will discard you like you're nothing because of their arrogance. That's the kind of thing that they will do in a discard. They will easily drop you for someone better, and they will even drop people who have contracts with them for work if they have another contract offer that gives them more money, even though they've committed to the one before. These are people who don't honour work contracts and things like that. So these are people who believe they deserve so much, and they expect you to accept that and understand that when they drop you. So if they have to drop you because something better has come along or someone better has come along, they expect you to understand, because you've always put them on a pedestal and you should know better that they deserve the best. But unfortunately, you're not the best. So you have to just understand and let them move on to what's best for themselves. Okay, that's what happens. I mean, you could be engaged to this person. You could be married to this person. And then someone else comes into their life whom they think is the cream of the crop. And they'll just divorce you to be with them. These kinds of people will do things like that. That's why it's very silly of people to get involved with those who are overt narcissists, those who have no shame in being narcissistic. Okay, you only have yourself to blame if you decide to get involved with one of these people. You can clearly see that they are in love with themselves. You can clearly see they are highly narcissistic. When you choose to be with someone like this, 99% of the time you are signing up to be brutally discarded at some point down the line. And I say 99% of the time because these people get extremely bored with their supply. And they only hang around until the supply ends. And when the supply ends, they will leave. They will brutally discard you because you are now of no use to them. You've got nothing, so you'll be discarded. Like a cereal box when you're done with it. Right, that's how they see their supply. They see their supply as objects. And malignant narcissists in particular will never, ever, ever let you discard them first. Oh my goodness, if you were to even attempt to discard a narcissist who is malignant, they will show you every colour of hell. And they won't trust you now either. So if you have a malignant husband, he might start locking doors, won't let you out of the house. He won't let you see your family. He won't let you see your friends, because How dare you find the courage to say that you're leaving? How dare you ask for a divorce? How dare you do this and how dare you do that? You're going to be digging yourself a big hole if you are the one who is attempting to discard a malignant narcissist. It is dangerous, because I promise you they will punish you for it. They will make you pay for attempting to hurt their ego, because they're the ones who are meant to be in power. How dare you insult the king or the queen? How dare you? How dare you stand up for your rights? How dare you complain? How dare you tell me that you want to leave and get a divorce because you're unhappy? I don't care if you're unhappy. I don't care if you're damn suicidal. You're going to stay here until I discard you. That's what they're like. So when you hurt their ego or attempt to hurt their ego, they're going to make you pay in ways that will really make you suffer, so that you never, ever do it again. Okay, so the punishment is harsh. And you've got to be very, very careful and strategic when you leave a malignant narcissist. You need a support system in place. You might even need authorities in place, law enforcement, because it can get dangerous. Okay, you've really got to look out for your well-being and safety here. You can't just go telling a narcissist that you want to leave, knowing how dangerous they can be and how violent they can be. So if you're in that kind of situation, you need professional help to leave. So I have explained to you what a direct discard is and the types of narcissists who do it, so you can understand the reverse discard more. Now, the people, the narcissists who do the reverse discard are the man children and women children. You won't find malignant narcissists who do reverse discards because of their ego and their need for power, except in one situation, okay? When they want the children and they want your money. That's the only time they will reverse discard you. And a reverse discard is basically when they push you to end the relationship. Okay, they do everything in their power to corner you and make you pull the plug on the relationship or the marriage. So if it benefits a narcissist for you to pull the plug on the marriage so that he can take your money, your property, your assets, apply this to women too who do this to men, and they want to take the children away from you, they will play the victim and you will be the predator, right? You will be the one who is the mentally unstable one. They will fire all sorts of accusations at you in court to make them look like the victim, even though they are the worst of all people. But they will claim that you're mentally unstable, and they will claim all sorts of things against you so that they can get the supply they need in a divorce. So they want to divorce you. They want to be out of the marriage. They want to be out of the relationship. Let's say, it's a relationship with your parents or your friends or colleagues. But they want that supply first. They want to ensure that they get more supply before they leave. So they push you to end it. It escalates to court. They fire accusations so that they get primary custody or they get the majority of your assets and money, and then they're off. That's it. That's the only time a malignant narcissist will stamp on his or her pride and ego and play the victim. Because naturally, they always want to be the ones who appear superior and powerful and so mighty. They know that playing the victim role makes them look weak and they hate it, but they will stamp on their ego for the sake of getting lots of money and inheritance, the kids, and so on and so forth. Not because they want the kids, but it's because of the benefits that they will reap when they have the children. So, for example, they might get lots of, child support or child benefits from the government, or they'll get government housing if they have the children, or they'll just hurt you by having the children. If they win in court and get access to the children or have primary care, they know that it's going to hurt you. And they will manage to do that unfairly by showing evidence of your reactive abuse to their abuse. Okay, so when they really push your buttons and they make you go crazy and you start screaming, shouting, because you've had enough. You're just so frustrated, you're so angry at having to deal with this monster at home. You lash out in various ways, and then they record those reactions. They take those reactions to court, and then the judge might say, well, yes, your wife unfortunately looks very unhinged, or your husband does look like he's a serious abuser. So people can get awarded the children unfairly, and it's for certain benefits, if only just to hurt the other parent, because they know the other parent really wants to have the children because they're safer with them. Okay, lots of people lose their children to narcissists in court because the malignant narcissist knows how to play the victim very well. Now, man children don't often do this. If they're in the early stages of narcissism, so they haven't reached malignant stage, you'll find that they're more than happy for you to take the children in court. They might fight for the money because they are, hungry for the material of this dunya. But children, responsibilities and all of that, no, they're happy for you to have them. Unless he has a highly narcissistic mother or father who eggs him on, they egg him on to take the children and fight for them in court, and because they have an issue with his wife or the ex-wife. So if you have a man-child husband and he didn't fight for the children in court, he didn't really care about having custody, it's because these guys don't like responsibilities, and they will only fight and kick up a fuss when they have someone behind them egging them on to do it and telling them things like, oh, did you know that, you're going to have to pay X amount in child support if she has the kids, or she's going to get all these government benefits if she has the kids, when they could go to you, fight for the kids and do this and do that. So he will be fueled by this, satanic force behind him, and he will pursue fighting for the children in court and putting you through unnecessary legal fees and processes, all because he's got people who have convinced him that he should be fighting to have the children, even though deep down he knows they're better off with you, and that the children need their mother and that they're more close to you, and he didn't want them in the first place. Man children are very easily influenced by the people around them. I said this before in my podcast about backburners. Okay, when they're left on their own, they actually make somewhat kind decisions for people. But when they have satanic people around them, they turn horrible and they put you through unnecessary stress. And you know what? It makes them feel bad. Especially if you haven't really done anything wrong to them. Believe me, the guilt catches up to them. But backburners in the lives of man children are highly influential, and they have a lot of strength. And this strength is very overpowering, overwhelming, and intimidating to a man-child or a woman-child. Okay. You should also know that a malignant narcissist is highly likely to reverse discard you if they've given you a large dowry. Okay, so whether that's in their minds, right, they see it as being a large dowry, or it is a large dowry, they will want that back because you didn't turn out to be the victim who they thought you'd be. They had dreams and hopes that you would be their slave and worship them for eternity, but that wasn't the case. You turned out to be someone with self-respect and dignity, and you stood up for yourself and your rights. And they hate that, because they believe that the image you presented to them in the beginning was that of a victim. So when they keep telling you, you scam me, you've deceived me, you're not the person I thought you were, I thought you were God-fearing, but you turned out to be a feminist, you turned out to be a kafira, you turned out to be, a horrible satanic woman, all because you didn't accept to be the slave they wanted you to be. So they continuously tell you that you're deceptive, and you have no idea why they keep saying that. They keep repeating it. You deceive me, you deceive me. And sometimes they'll just tell you straight up, if you want a divorce, you're the one who's going to have to ask for it. You're the one who's going to have to go to the court and get a khula because I want my dowry back. Sometimes they'll tell you that up front. if he's malignant. The man-child won't tell you up front. He's a coward. Because the dowry a man-child gives you is often quite petty. It's not very much. So it's embarrassing for them to show how cheap they are by demanding their dowry back when it's peanuts, right? But the malignant narcissist, because they're quite grandiose and they want to show off in society and show people how much dowry they paid, they are concerned about having that back. So they will abuse you to the point where you turn around and say, I'm going to apply for a khula in the Sharia council or the mosque, you can have your dowry back. Because 9 times out of 10, the sheikh will say, you have to give him his dowry back, whether he's an abuser or not. Okay, I've spoken about this before. It's unjust for an abuser to demand the dowry back, but in order for you to get a quick khula, it's just easier for you to give it up. And that's why I tell a lot of women, be careful when you demand big dowries, because if you're marrying a malignant narcissist, you will be paying every penny back. When he reverse discards you and forces you into a corner where you have to give it up in order to be released from the marriage. Okay, they know what they're doing. These guys who give so much dowry, you think they don't plan for this? All these satanic men, they tell each other, they advise each other, Akhi, it's okay, give a big dowry, accept her demands. However, when you want to leave, make sure she's the one who asks for the divorce, so you get it all back. You can demand your haqq back in the court. You can demand all that dowry back. So that's what they do. Okay, that's what the malignant narcissist will do. If he's got dignity, he won't do it. Because I know in the Gulf, it is extremely embarrassing for a woman to divorce a man. Because it will kill his ego. A Khaliji man would rather die than be divorced by a woman. Okay, because it looks like the man is an abuser. And he cares about his reputation. But if a narcissist has a cheap mindset, and he's not from a wealthy background, he will fight for the money. Okay, it's only men with a cheap mindset. There are loads of narcissists who don't have a cheap mindset. They don't care about the money. They don't care what money they lose, as long as they have that power and they show who's boss. Okay, the more they don't care about money, the more powerful it makes them look. However, with a man-child, because he doesn't pay very much and he always makes a fuss over the dowry, and he doesn't really want to pay one, he's got a resentment towards even paying a dowry in the first place, he will care very much about getting his money back. So he will reverse discard you if he wants you to, apply for a khula so he can get his dowry back. Even if it's $200. Wallah, I've seen the pettiest cases like this, where a man will demand his $200 back, or his $100 or £100 if it gets to a khula. Okay, if you finally decide to go and free yourself from this marriage, and they will demand from the sheikh that they have their dowry back, and you're thinking, are you actually being serious right now? And they are. They don't want you to have that $100. They don't believe you deserve it. Even though it should be haram for them to take it back, because they are the ones who deceived you in the first place. They know they're in the wrong. They know that they have an issue, which is why they're reverse discarding you in the first place. They shouldn't demand it back. But these are people who don't fear Allah. Okay, and even if they do fear Allah, let's say for argument's sake, a man-child fears Allah, or he has a conscience. Okay, let's not go as far as to say that he fears Allah. He's got a conscience, he's got some empathy. And he's like, you know what, forget the dowry. I don't want the dowry. I know I'm the problem. Let her keep it. Let me just get my reverse discard out of the way, and everyone moves on with their life. If he's like that, he'll have a narcissistic mother or a narcissistic sister on his case about it. Why are you letting go of the dowry? Even if it's $200. Why are you letting go of it? It's your right. She's applied for a khula. Go and get it. Go and demand for it. And they might egg him on until he changes his mind and tells you that he wants his dowry back. And it's frustrating. It's really annoying, because not only is it a petty amount, but it's because he's pleasing his satanic backburners who just want to cause problems. Okay, and they might even demand the gold, the jewelry and other gifts that they might have given you. And they don't care if they're oppressing you. They don't care if you end up leaving this marriage with nothing. They don't care. They want you to leave with nothing because that's their precious son. That's their precious brother. No one gets to take advantage of him except us. Only we can do that, not you. So it's a lose-lose situation. Even if you have a man-child or a woman-child who are fairly decent in their character, bearable, unfortunately you'll have their backburners on their case. So as you can see, the reverse discard is the coward's way out, especially when they're man-children, because they don't have the confidence and the grandiosity of the malignant narcissist to issue a talaq or do an open discard. Okay, it's because they have to remain covert. They don't want people to know that they're narcissists. They want to remain as wolves in sheep's clothing, whereas the malignant narcissist is the wolf in wolf's clothing. Good men also need to be aware of highly narcissistic women who will reverse discard them because they want to keep a large dowry. So they might marry a man whom they're not interested in at all, but he's marrying her because she's a beautiful trophy wife. And what she'll do, within 3 to 6 months, she'll make your life a living nightmare, a living hell. So you divorce her and she gets to keep this large dowry and any other expensive gifts and gold you gave her. So a good man who has dignity will just divorce her because he's not getting anything from her. She's avoiding giving him all his rights. She's giving him the bare minimum. She clearly doesn't want to be there, but she gives many excuses to justify her terrible behaviour until he decides to just divorce, because she's not going to go and ask for a khula. Oh no, she's not going to do that. She's going to wait until he reaches his boiling point and issues that talaq. And sometimes this drags out for such a long time, years, until he reaches that boiling point. And he'll complain about how awful she is for years, not realising that he is in a reverse discard because she doesn't have any intention of getting better. Okay, so it goes both ways. Man children and women children will reverse discard you because they know they are in the wrong. Okay? They know they don't have any valid reason to end a marriage or a relationship or a friendship with you because you haven't done anything. The reason why the relationship or the marriage is failing is because of them. Because they have their own reasons as to why they are not putting in the work for this relationship to flourish or this marriage to flourish. And I will go into these reasons shortly, but you have to understand that when someone knows that they are the reason why a relationship isn't moving forward in the way it's meant to, and when they know that they can't match your level of effort, they will begin to reverse discard you. And this can happen at various stages in the relationship. Sometimes it starts from the very beginning. Sometimes it starts halfway, sometimes towards the end. It's different for everyone. Okay, it's not the same. And again, I'll go more into this in a bit. But what I would like you to know, that it's a cruel discard nonetheless. Okay, even if they're trying to do it in a subtle way, in a way that doesn't hurt you openly because they're not openly, brutally discarding you like the malignant narcissist does, it hurts because they're not giving you any answers. And you're seeing a lot of strange behaviour, hurtful behaviour that you have no answers for. But it's because they're doing a reverse discard that is also painful. Because you have no idea why they're doing this or why they're acting or behaving in this way. So both types of discards are painful. They're both cruel. Because one type can't tell you directly that they want out of the marriage or want out of the relationship because of X, Y, Z. And the other type is just brutally, raw. And they will just discard you like yesterday's trash and make you feel terrible. Either way, they make you feel terrible. But the one that is sometimes worse to deal with is the one that drags out for a long period of time. It's slow torture. It's like a slow death. And it's like watering a plant that's already dead. Right? You're desperately trying to revive this relationship because you have no idea why it's not working out. You're doing everything you can to make it work. You're doing everything you can to make them happy. But it's like watering a dead plant that cannot grow or flourish at all because of what they're doing. But you're not getting any answers as to why they are being the way they are. So this is torture. And this is why so many people, after narcissistic abuse with a man-child or a woman-child, spend years and years not being able to get over it because they never understood what happened. And this takes me on to explaining the different reasons why narcissistic man-children and women-children reverse discard their husbands and wives and friends and colleagues and family members and so on. Okay? I've grouped the reasons into 5 categories, and I've grouped the timings into 3 categories. So for some, the reverse discard can start from the beginning of the relationship. For others, it's from the middle. And for other people, it's towards the end. Okay? So I will piece all of this together for you, and you can apply it to your own situation to get a deeper understanding of what happened. So the reasons found in category 1, when the reverse discard starts from the beginning of the relationship, often include the following. The narcissistic individual knowing very well who they are as people. They know they're narcissistic. They know they're not good people, but they found a very potent supply in this person. And they're only in it until that supply depletes. So this could be money, for example. Okay? Someone wants to be with this person or wants to befriend this person because they have lots of money and they want to share and be involved in this person's lifestyle. They can borrow money from this person. They can associate with the people whom this person knows who also have money. And these people might be very valuable connections who can help them start a business or climb their career ladder quickly or something like that. And sometimes a narcissist will know when someone has a big inheritance coming to them in the future because this person's father is very wealthy or their mother is very wealthy. So they'll marry someone out of hope that they will get a nice big chunk of that inheritance in the future. And you get other narcissistic individuals who will enter dodgy marriages because they want to fulfill their sexual desires with that person while they wait for their dream person to come along in their life. Okay? Now, sometimes this is a dodgy marriage. It's a secret marriage that's considered to be invalid anyway. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes they will get involved in a proper marriage where families are involved and, they do the whole shebang only for this person to find out later that it was only about this person's sexual desires. And an indication of this is when you see the man-child's parents paying for everything. If they're paying the dowry for the wedding, his house, his food, his bills, if they are covering all the costs, and in your conversations you pick up that he's quite obsessed about sex but makes no effort at all, especially if he's old enough and capable of having a job that pays well and as a result is able to save money to put towards the dowry and put towards doing other things for his marriage. If he's not doing any of that and mummy and daddy are taking care of everything, that's a huge red flag. He's not 15. He's 27, 28, 32. If that's happening, then know that he's not taking marriage seriously and he will use, abuse and reverse discard whenever he feels like it because he's not worked for it. He's not put any hard work into having a wife and building a home. His parents are taking care of it. So there's a huge question mark behind that. Okay? And you'll find some man children as well who will, they'll go for women who have everything already. They have the house, they've got the career, and they just want to be taken care of. They just want a place to live because their parents don't want them, and they can't live with friends, and they don't have enough money to rent, and they're too lazy to go and get a second job so that they can actually live independently and live a decent life. So they'll look for a woman, a boss babe, one of those highly independent women who have got everything together with the intention to leech off her. And they will use her as a stepping stone to get to where they want in life. So from the beginning, they already know it's going to end at some point when they achieve their goal. Other narcissists are players, and they know it. They know that they have addictions to sex, or they've got addictions to other things that they know will get them into trouble later if they were found to be, involved in certain activities or habits, such as watching pornography excessively, or smoking drugs, or drinking alcohol, or gambling. So they know it's only a matter of time before they would have to reverse discard, because they just want a place to stay for now, and they know they can't commit to somebody. So if they know they're a player, they know their addictions will not allow them to have a long-lasting, fulfilling relationship. But they really like this person, and they really want to be with this person. They want to marry them and experience what marriage life is like with them, but they know it's going to come to an end one day because they know they're cheaters. They know they're liars. They don't do the inner work to help themselves. They just give up. Like, that's it. I'm a player. I'm a bad boy. I'm a bad girl. What can I do? I know I'm going to mess it up one day. Might as well just make the most of this while I can. They know from the beginning that they can't be loyal. They know that they have so many back burners. They know that they are always tempted by men and women left, right and centre. And if you knew from the beginning that they were a player, a bad boy or a bad girl, that they had that in them, but you choose to befriend them and get sucked into their lifestyle, or you choose to marry them, then in their minds, they're like, you're asking for it. You know what you're getting yourself into. You know my bad habits. You know I smoke weed. You know I go clubbing, and I'm addicted to gaming, and I like to go to casinos and gamble my money away. You know that. So what on earth makes you think that I'm going to turn into a pious man or a pious woman who's going to start praying and be pious and be this reformed person? If you want to believe that I'm going to be that person, I'll let you believe it. I'll play along. Because if you're willing to accept me, a dusty bum in your life who is useless, I'm a liability, I bring you nothing but misery, I bring you nothing but problems and debts and STDs and God knows what else. You're willing to take that on, you're willing to take that risk? Habibi, be my guest. I'm happy. I'm happy to take that chance, but it's your risk. So they don't blame themselves when you choose to marry them or befriend them, because they think that you're naive, and they take advantage of this naivety and lack of intelligence because you're taking on a liability, right? It's a huge liability. They could gamble your money away. It's really dangerous getting involved with anyone who is addicted to gambling and gaming. Before you know it, they're going to steal from you to fund their addictions. But somehow lots of people think, I can change them. Oh, if I marry them, I'm going to teach them about Islam. I'm going to teach them to do this and be a better person. They snort at you when you say things like that. They play along. They're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, I'll do that. If that's what it's going to take for me to be with you and have a roof over my head, because I'm still a 15-year-old in my head, even though I'm 35 years old, I've got nothing going on for me in my life. But you're willing to take that on? And you're willing to put your life on the line for me, someone who is clearly unreliable, be my guest. I'm going to stay here until I get caught out. So they know they're already on a timer. From the first day they meet you, there's a ticking timer that's going, because they know one day it's going to end. And they will have no respect for you whatsoever if you take all of this on. I have clients who tell me that their husbands steal money from them so that they can pay for women on OnlyFans. And we're talking thousands of dollars and thousands of pounds spent on these women because they have an addiction. And I've told you before in a number of podcasts, a lot of women take these men on because they're so good looking. The chemistry is there. The chemistry is explosive with these guys. And women risk it for this hot guy. Well, let's see how that works out for you, honey. And men risk it for the hot girl. You know she's a disaster on legs. You know she's mentally unhinged. You know she's got a track record of being promiscuous, and that hasn't changed because she's been like that with you. But you take that on. And then you wonder why later they reverse discard you. Come on. Some people have to use their brains a little bit and take some responsibility for what happens to them later down the line. Not all people are naive to this. Some people know very well what they're getting into, but they kind of hope, they have an expectation, an unrealistic hope that these people will change and do a 180, and these people can save these narcissistic individuals and give them what they need. It doesn't work like that. These people don't want to be saved. The person you married is the person they are. They didn't ask you to be saved. That's your intention for them. But they themselves haven't done any work to change who they are as people and to get out of their addictions. You married them as an addict. And you would have done that because you don't want to be alone. Right? You're lonely. You want company. You want this blazing chemistry that you've experienced with them. You want the intimacy. You want the romance. But it's come at the expense of your health, your well-being and your sanity, because these people are notorious for the reverse discard and leaving you in 1,000 broken pieces because of the carnage they cause and leave behind in your life. Now, another reason that the reverse discard will start early is because they have married someone or got together with someone as revenge on an ex. Okay? So they use this person as a rebound to make the ex jealous. Maybe you're the new supply. And they jump ship very quickly to show the ex, you're replaceable. You think I can't move on? I can move on in a flash. And they meet you and they rush you into a marriage because they're trying to prove a point to the ex. And sometimes friends do this to each other as well. They replace each other. Oh, I've got a new best friend now. She's my new best friend. I don't need you anymore. It's playground stuff, right? Playground rubbish that only narcissistic, immature individuals get involved with. Sometimes this triangulation happens in families with siblings and parents. But be careful if you are being rushed into a marriage. Sometimes you are the rebound. And if that ex ever does decide to come back into his or her life, you will be reverse discarded so that they can get back together. The narcissist only married you so that a lesson can be taught to the ex who walked away from them. And this will apply to everyone who noticed that when they broke up with the narcissist, they went straight back to the ex. Another reason a reverse discard can be intended from the beginning is when someone is gay and they need a cover-up. Okay, so they'll marry you to cover up the fact that they are gay or that they are lesbian. So if they get married to someone from the opposite gender, it will prove to the world and everyone who had suspicions that they aren't gay. And they will push you to have a child as soon as possible. And they will make sure they marry someone as naive as possible to all of these things. So gay men tend to choose women who are very young, like 18, 19 years old. They don't know much about the world. They've been very protected by the family, very sheltered. They have no exposure to any of these social issues. And they'll be virgins as well, so they won't ever sense if something's off about the guy, especially when it comes to intimacy, because they have no idea what they're doing anyway. This is the first person whom they've ever been with, so they don't have anything to compare to. And they don't really have many expectations. So if a man who is gay doesn't really want to get intimate with this woman, with his wife, then she's not going to see it as something strange unless she starts talking to other people about it. And he will always make sure that she never says anything about their intimate life to other people, and he will scare her with Islamic things like it's haram to talk about intimacy with other people, which it is, but he will scare her to the point where she won't even express any concerns that may arise in this marriage because he is gay. So he will want a child from her as soon as possible to look as normal as possible. And then after that, if they divorce, it's absolutely fine. Okay, he won't care. If a divorce happens after that, he will be able to go on and live his secret life because everyone knows he was married to a woman and he has a child, so all is good. It's a distraction from who he really is. Okay, people now turn a blind eye to any suspicions they might have or may have had before. And now he's free to go and date his Mr. Lover. With women, it's harder to detect if they are closet lesbian, but men will notice that these women avoid intimacy as much as possible and they don't enjoy it at all. But they're in the marriage for stability, security, financial benefits and whatnot. And also to look normal, right, in front of other people in their community. Now these people don't care, like I said, they don't care if they get divorced later, because they'll use the excuse that they didn't enjoy marriage, they don't want to get remarried, everything's good, and they carry on dating whom they're originally attracted to. This is of course done in secret for both men and women, but they have the excuse now as to why they don't want to get married and why they remain single. Whereas if a man was to reach the age of 40 or 45 and be unmarried, especially if he's known in the community, especially if he's someone religious like an imam or someone like that, people will have suspicions and doubts as to what's wrong with this guy. Is he gay? Is there something medically wrong with him? And all of that. So it just looks a bit strange when someone well known in the community hasn't married at all, especially for a man. So he's forced into a marriage. Okay, he's got no other option but to deceive a poor woman and get married to her for the sake of his own reputation. Women don't have to do this as such because it's become very normal now to see women in their 40s and 50s who have never been married before. But it's not seen as acceptable for men in the community to be single for that long. And if he cares about his reputation, which most men do, especially if they are narcissists, then they will get married and love bomb a poor woman into accepting his situation, even if he divorces her later, because his intention from the beginning was to always reverse discard her. Okay, these are his personal reasons. So everyone who has these reasons that I've mentioned now, from the beginning, will reverse discard eventually because they don't intend for this marriage or relationship to work out long term. They are in the relationship or marriage for the supply for a certain period of time until the supply runs out or until they fulfill a mission or reach a goal. Maybe an ex comes back or they get a better opportunity or a better offer later down the line. Their intention is not to have a long-lasting, fulfilling relationship or marriage like you do. Okay? Maybe they'll be off once they get that share of the inheritance they were waiting for. Maybe they'll be off just before you find out they're gay because they've noticed that you've started to pick up on things and find certain things out and be suspicious. And I say maybe because there is a 1% chance that the person who came into this marriage or relationship with a wrong intention or the bad intention, there is a chance they might actually fall in love with you, and that intention changes later in the relationship. Okay, so if they were in it for the money, but they actually fall in love with you, and they realize, actually, I don't want to be here just for the money. I want to be here because I've actually fallen in love with this person. I don't want to go back to an ex. I don't want to deceive this person. This person is actually helping me to be a better person, find Islam, understand the deen better. Maybe you're helping them with their gay problem too. And they decide to actually try and make it work with you and overcome their sin. You never know. But it's extremely rare that this happens. I don't want you to hold on to this. I'm saying that there are exceptions to the rule where the intention can change, but 99% of the time it won't. Okay? I just wanted to mention that because I don't like to generalize. I do like to always mention the exception to the rule as well. So how do all these people, all these man children and women children, how do they get people to marry them? How do these players and addicts and people who are after money and people who know they're bad people, how do they get people to befriend them, trust them, marry them, and all of that? They do it with love bombing. It's as simple as that. They are experts at love bombing their way into situations that highly benefit them. So if you're heavily love bombed in the beginning by a narcissist, I'm telling you, be very wary about this. You might be love bombed into a quick marriage because you're the rebound. And many, many women fall for this. Even if it doesn't feel normal, even if it feels uncomfortable, women will turn a blind eye to, being heavily charmed. And that's how these people get a foot in the door. And most of these charmers are found in online apps. So be very careful when you sign up to these apps, because there are so many people on there looking for new supply and rebounds and people who have money and people who would be a good cover for their closeted homosexuality. Okay? Be careful out there. When you see people be overly charming, it's a huge red flag. Just stay away from people like that. Now, there are some people who also have the intention of a reverse discard from the beginning of a relationship if they have been forced or pressurized by their family to marry someone specific. Okay, so they might not want to marry this person, but their father has said, if you don't marry this person, you're not going to be included in the will. You're not going to get this money. You're not going to get my support in your career. I'm not going to fund this and I'm not going to buy you that. And some mothers might say, if you don't marry this woman, I'm going to die being displeased with you. Do you want to see your mother die and not forgive you? Do you want the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because you didn't make your mother happy? No, I don't think so. Marry this woman. So some men, and some women too, will be pressurized into marrying someone they have no interest in marrying. And in many cases, they will be in love with someone else. So they will always have the intention one day to get a divorce from this person whom they're being pressurized to marry and marry the person whom they love. They've always got that person in mind. So a reverse discard is always on the cards. Okay, and again, there's a 1% chance this person might fall in love with you and decide to work on the marriage, stay in the marriage, and forget about the person whom they didn't marry and accept it as qadar Allah. There are exceptions to the rule. But in most cases, you find so many people who fall into a very deep depression because they couldn't marry the person they wanted. And who bears the brunt of this? The person whom they've married. The poor man, the poor woman, who have to deal with them not wanting intimacy, them being low effort, them being in a low mood most of the time, moping around because they've been pressurized or forced into this marriage. Okay? Now, when a reverse discard happens from the beginning, the narcissistic man-child or woman-child will begin to let the people around them know that there are problems. Okay, so they'll start to drop hints from the beginning that they're not happy. So they're starting to build up their victim story from early on because they know very well this marriage is going to end and it's going to be their fault. So they don't want to look guilty. They don't want to feel guilty. They don't want to carry that shame because of the deception. So they start to build a victim story for themselves. So people sympathize with them when you are put in a corner to end the relationship with them. Okay? For example, Mama, she doesn't cook nicely. It's okay, Habibi, have sabr. She'll learn. Send her to me, I'll teach her. Mama, she raised her voice at me today. It's okay, Baba, have sabr. All women are like this. Mama, she doesn't make me breakfast in the morning. She's very lazy. It's okay, Habibi, have sabr, have sabr, have sabr. He starts dropping hints, or she starts dropping hints, that they're not happy. Okay, they might even make things up. A lot of the time they will lie about things that you do that causes them to be in a bad mood. Habibi, why are you in a bad mood? Oh, I had a fight with my wife. I had a fight with my husband. Oh, every time I see you, you're moody. Every time I see you, you have a fight with your wife. Have a fight with your husband. Are you guys not getting on? It's like, no, not really, Mama. But like you told me, I have sabr. I'm having sabr. So they're playing this victim. I'm not happy, Mama. Look what she's doing to me. Look what he's doing to me. But I'm listening to your advice because I'm a good boy. I'm having sabr. And his mother might say to him, son, do you want me to speak to her? Because I'm not accepting this. You're always upset. You know, this is not what marriage is about. He'll be like, no, Mama. No, please don't get involved. No, I don't want to upset her. I really don't want to upset her. It's just going to cause more problems. She's going to get upset, and then she's always going to be checking my phone, and she won't trust me speaking to you again. She'll always get suspicious. La, Mama, please, don't say anything to her. Don't say anything to her. I'll sort it. Just make dua for me, Mama. Make dua for me. That Allah saves my sanity, and that I don't reach the point of suicide. Just make dua for me, Mama. Maybe I've done something in my life for Allah to punish me with this. Khalas, I accept. Qadar Allah. This is my test in life. Alhamdulillah wa shukr. They're proper drama queens. They will make you out to be a monster. They will say, no, if you tell her what I told you, I'm going to get in big trouble, Mama. Big trouble. You know, she's going to shout and scream. You don't know what she's like, Mama, when she's upset. No, please, just leave it to me. I'm just telling you these things in confidence. And then what will happen, the whole point of this, is that these narcissists start to plant seeds in the minds of people. They'll tell their sisters, their brothers, all their toxic associates. They'll start to drip this information to them so that they don't like you. Okay, you're now the predator. You're the one who is the troublemaker. But they are under strict instructions to not tell you anything of what they've said. But you'll notice when you start to attend family gatherings or you meet their friends, they all act a bit strange around you. They look at you with suspicion, or they're not that friendly anymore. It's because of all the rubbish that these people are feeding them from the beginning, because the reverse discard has started. So they will literally complain about every tiny thing to these people whenever they have the chance. They're constantly gossiping about you behind your back because they know they have to get out of this, and they have to get out of this as a victim. They need you to be the one who looks bad and not them, because they've got a reputation to uphold. So when you see those people who were once friendly to you start looking at you from the corner of their eye, or they don't sit next to you, or you just feel an icy cold energy come from them, know that a smear campaign has started against you. Okay, because this person, unfortunately, does not intend to be with you long term. And narcissistic women children are notorious for exaggerating small things that happen at home. So for example, the husband got really irritated at something and he snapped. She will go and relay that to her family as him raging at her. He didn't rage, he just snapped, he got frustrated. But she will paint him out to be an abuser. But every time her father or her brother says to her, do you want me to step in? Do you want me to go and deal with him? She's like, no. It's okay. No, I've got it. I'm handling it. Everything is fine. When I need you to step in, I'll tell you. But for now, I'm just venting because you're my family. I just want to keep you in the loop. I just want you to know what I'm dealing with. This person whom you wanted me to marry, yeah, this is what they're being like. When actually the guy is a nice, normal guy, but she's got another man in her mind who she wants to be with. She's the one who's been pressurized to marry this nice guy when she wants to marry the bad boy, the thug, the drug addict, whom she was with at college. So, women are known for this. They're known to exaggerate everything when they want to get out of a situation, but it's manipulation. They manipulate their whole family and the men in their family by telling them everything but stopping them from actually doing something. When a woman does this and she knows she's lying, she knows she's just painting herself to be a victim, then she will feel that internal guilt. She will. This is different from women who genuinely are scared to get their male relatives involved in a situation because they're genuinely worried about abuse. That's different. I'm not talking about women like that. I'm talking about women who know they're with a nice guy, but they're reverse discarding him by starting a smear campaign from the very beginning. And the reason why they don't allow their male relatives to get involved early on is because they have to show how much they've tolerated. So when they start complaining from the beginning of the year until the end of the year, or for a couple of years, their family can see, well, actually, she's tried. She's made a lot of effort to stay in this marriage. She's tolerated a lot because she's had problems from day one. We've had problems from day one. So the longer they drag it out and don't let anyone get involved, the more people see how much they've tolerated. And when they look at you as someone who's put their son or daughter or friend or brother or sister through such a hard time. Like, they have had to tolerate you. The things we've heard about you, if only you knew what we knew about you. But you'll always feel it. You'll feel off around them. You'll feel very uncomfortable around them. They were once very nice to you, and all of a sudden they changed. Their attitude flipped. So just bear that in mind, okay? This is what happens in category 1 when the reverse discard starts from the very beginning. And these are the main reasons I'd say, why narcissists will start a reverse discard from the beginning. Okay, so we're done now with category 1. Let's move on to the reverse discard that starts from the middle of the relationship or marriage. And in this category, there are two different reasons for a reverse discard taking place that are very important to know about. So the first reason would be that the man-child or woman-child got ambushed, scammed and deceived by one of Iblis's soldiers. Okay? A jealous backburner or a new supply who's giving them lots of attention. Now, this usually happens later down the line because people are observing the changes that this man-child or woman-child have been making in their life with this new friendship or this new marriage. And they're seeing that this man-child is getting better as a man, as a person, as a Muslim. The woman-child is becoming better. She's more stable. She's calmer. She's happier. And it's all because she's got new good friends, or she's got a fantastic new husband, or a man has got a wonderful empathic wife. And they're improving in their life. Okay, so they don't have the intention from the beginning to reverse discard you like the others. They genuinely have an interest in you. So the narcissistic man-child would have been drawn to your maternal qualities, like I've said before, and a narcissistic woman-child will be drawn to an empathic man's stability. So with time, they will get the healing they need from these empathic partners and friends because they're high-value people who are very grounded in who they are. So they're not being depleted, but they are helping these narcissists to get better without knowing that they're narcissists. They just see these people as being broken people who need extra love and care and support and TLC and affection and all of that. And you don't realize that everything that you're pouring into them is healing them. Your energy and your light is healing them. Your faith in Allah is healing them. So they're getting better. And who's watching in the background? The jealous backburners and people who are coming into their lives, maybe a new supply in their company that they work for, or, just random strangers who like this new person they've become. So the backburners see a stable version, someone they could see themselves with long term. And I won't go into the whole thing again because I've got a whole series on the man-child and the woman-child. Please go back to those podcasts for a detailed explanation of this. But they feel entitled to having this new, wonderful, polished version of the narcissist, right? They want it for themselves. So they begin their satanic mission to sabotage the relationship for this man-child or for this woman-child, and they start to reel them out of it. And then once they brainwash them and make them believe that they are being controlled, this person's changing you, this is not who you really are, they're not accepting you for who you are, you've never been religious, you've never been this kind of person, just come out and have fun, just come out and do what you used to do. They will continuously talk to this person, brainwash this person until they get tempted to leave the relationship. Now, how do they leave it when you've done nothing but good to them? Right? They're in a state of guilt now because now they've believed in everything the backburners told them or the new suppliers told them about you, that you're just controlling them and you're molding them into a different person who benefits you. So how do they get out of it? They start to reverse discard you. Now, I'm going to list all the things they do when they reverse discard you later in this podcast, but for now, I just want to go through the categories. So can you see the dilemma a man-child or woman-child faces when they start falling for the lies and manipulations of these satanic people, and they start to believe that these satanic people actually want the best for them, and they start to, paint them a picture of what life on the other side could be like for them, and they future fake them, And if you leave this situation, I promise you, you're going to come back to, something far better. It's way more fun over here. You've become so serious. You've become so boring. The person you're with is so boring, so conservative. Come over here and have fun. Are you really going to live the rest of your life like this? So if they don't want to be with this person, they just want to sabotage the new faith they've found and this new love that they've found for themselves and this new self-respect and self-value, because they don't have it themselves. They are jealous that this person, whom they know was so broken before, has managed to change, and it triggered them. So they're on a satanic mission to drag this person back down into their swamp. So if they don't want to be with them long term, or even marry them or anything like that, if they have no interest in them, they just want to ruin everything that they've worked on. They want to ruin all their progress. They want them back in the satanic environment that they were in before, because they feel left behind. And now they're thinking in their minds, oh, don't you think that you're better than us now? Oh, no. Just because you've been around empaths doesn't mean you're going to be better than us. Oh, I'll show you. I'm going to fulfill my mission from Iblis. Just wait till I get you over here, and I'll take you back to being a complete broken mess again. And they fall for it. Unfortunately, the man-child and woman-child lose a golden opportunity because they failed a test at the first hurdle, right? They've failed to instill the right boundaries. They have failed to block out these people who belong to their past. Or they've failed to recognize new people who have come into their lives who have satanic energy. They still haven't been able to put up those walls that were needed to protect themselves, even if it's from toxic family members, toxic mother, toxic father, toxic siblings and toxic friends whom they shouldn't really be hanging around with anymore, because they still have the old habits that they have left behind. So that's what happens. That's when a reverse discard starts, from the middle of the relationship, because the man-child or woman-child, they want to go back to a back burner who has sold them a dream. Obviously it's a scam, but they've fallen for it. And now they need to think of an exit plan, because they have no reason to end the relationship with you. You've been an angel, you've been a saint to them. Why would they end it? Everyone would find it mind-boggling as to why this person would end their marriage or end their relationship with you when they were so happy, when they were doing so well, when everyone could see that they were getting better. So they have to think of a plan that makes them look like the victim and you being the one who wanted to end the relationship. Now, the second reason for a reverse discard happening in the middle of a relationship is that the man-child or woman-child have realized that they have bitten more than they could chew when they got with you. For example, they may have aimed high and married someone out of their league, way out of their league, and now they're struggling to maintain a relationship with someone who is far more advanced than they are in many areas of life. But they wanted you as the trophy. So they scammed you into believing that they were some hotshot person, right? That they were someone successful, that they were someone deserving of you, and they love-bombed you until you accepted them. But reality hit after marriage, and they realized that they can't live like this. They're feeling more and more insecure by the day, because they can't match your level of intellect. They can't match your level of confidence. They can't match your level of financial success. So it's going to be embarrassing for them to tell you, actually, I'm not to your level. I don't know how to maintain or have a relationship with you. I thought I could do it, but I can't. And I need to get out of this. They're not going to say that. It's embarrassing. So they're going to reverse discard you, because they need to save their ego, so they'd rather you do it. Another example is when a man takes more than one wife, thinking he could handle it. And he damn well can't. Like most men can't. He just gets hyped up by all these red pill Muslim guys online who keep pushing the whole, get a second wife, bruv, get a second wife and you'll feel like a man. You'll finally feel like a man. Yeah, get that second wife and all your problems will be solved. You'll feel alpha. What a load of rubbish. A lot of men crumble with one wife, let alone with two, right? So when a man thinks he can take two wives and he's got a salary of 24,000 a year, he's not going to get very far with these two women. One of them is going to have to go because he's unable to deal with two pregnancies now and the thought of multiple kids coming into his life and all the bills that are going to come his way. He will break down. He's not going to handle this. He's not handling their bickering and the arguments that he's having with two women. I'm telling you, it's hard enough having arguments with one, let alone with two. You're now having arguments with two women on a daily basis if there are dramas and problems between them. And just think of everything else that comes with. So think of yourself in a relationship and times that by two. You're dealing with all of that, again, elsewhere. Most men can't handle that, I'm telling you, because they can just about deal with their own emotions, let alone the emotions of other women. They can't. Emotionally unavailable men should never get married, let alone get married to two or three or four. They can't handle it. I'm telling you from now, they can't handle it because an emotionally unavailable man has no emotional intelligence. And a man who is entering a marital relationship with more than one woman has to be really highly emotionally intelligent, as well as wise and patient and mature. You're not going to find those guys on TikTok. You're not going to find those guys following red pill accounts. They don't. The people who are getting involved in polygamous relationships are people who are incompetent. Okay? And because they're incompetent, they end up reverse discarding at least one wife. And it's not her fault. It's because he's realised he can't handle this. He can't actually do it. He can't bear the responsibility of it. But he's too embarrassed to say it. He's too ashamed to let his wives know that he's not the man. Yeah, he's not the alpha macho masculine man who he wanted to be by having another wife. It didn't work, unfortunately, because he's still a 15-year-old inside that man's body. It didn't work. So who bears the brunt of it? One of the wives. At least one of the wives. Sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's all three, all four, because it's just something he can't do. He doesn't enjoy it. So sometimes this wife is unfortunately pregnant. Sometimes she is a newlywed. Sometimes, she's so excited about being a wife and finally getting married, and then within 2 or 3 months she's being discarded without knowing she's being discarded. If you're in this situation, I advise that you listen to podcasts 62 and 63. In these, I dive deep into issues within polygamous relationships. Okay, so again, I won't go into detail with this here because I've already spoken about it so much, but just visit those 2 podcasts, inshallah, and it will give you a better idea of how it can go terribly wrong when you marry the wrong man who is incompetent. And again, I'll list the things that they do shortly in this podcast. I just want to get through the categories. So before I move on to the 3rd category, I just want to touch upon the man children and women children who realise that they're not fit for marriage responsibilities. So they get hyped up about marriage, they're excited about the wedding, they're excited about, wearing a white dress and marrying the love of their life. And then they get married, reality sinks in, and they don't like marriage. They don't like it at all. And they fantasize about having their single life back. They don't like the responsibilities. They don't like the duties and the rights that are, due to the husband or wife. They're lazy. They can't be bothered. It's just too much for them. They want to live like a single person in their marriage. And this can be really frustrating because you're constantly having to remind them, hey, you are married, you know. You do have a husband, you know. You've got a wife, you know. Just in case you forgot. But they don't want to hear it. They get really frustrated. They get angry. They get annoyed every time you remind them because they want to block it out. They just want to close their eyes and pretend they're single again. They don't want to look after kids. They don't want to make dinner. They don't want to take care of anyone. They just want to get dressed, glam up, and go out with their friends and come back whenever they want. It's literally like living with a teenager. So they see marriage as a huge burden, and they become a burden on you because they realize that they don't want to be a wife and they don't want to be a husband. It's not for them. They're not cut out for it. But how do they get out of it? That's where they start the reverse discard, and they start to become an absolute nightmare so that you get fed up and end things. Because if they end things, then they'll look terrible, right? They'll look absolutely awful and everyone will blame them. Like, no, you got married. You wanted to get married. Man up and be a husband, or woman up and be a wife. Everyone will gun them. They know that. So they have to reverse discard so that they don't get blamed by everyone and they can get out scot-free. And the blame will all be on the other person who was never patient enough and, couldn't deal with them. And this is where the smear campaign starts in this category. So it starts from the middle. They will start to tell people about your faults and the issues that you're both having so that they can start to build themselves a victim story. Okay, they've realized now you're too high maintenance for them. You're too out of their league. They can't afford to keep you. Instead of making themselves look bad by admitting it, they will start to say, oh, she's a bit psycho. She's a bit crazy. She's messy at home. She doesn't do this and she can't do that. And they start to, tell all of this to their friends and family members. And it's to make you look bad so that when the plug is eventually pulled on the relationship by you, then everyone will be like, well, it wasn't a loss to you because she was psycho anyway, wasn't she? They're not going to feel pity for the actual victim, for the person who was deceived this whole time. And if they meet someone or they go back to a back burner and they've been brainwashed into believing the grass is greener on the other side and they want to go there, they now again have to start a smear campaign against you to justify it. Oh, she's not treating me well. Or he's not doing this. He's not buying me that. He's not taking me on holidays. X, Y, Z. And then when you break up because you've had enough and you walk away and this person runs to their back burner or a new supply, very quickly after the breakup, people will sympathize with them and be like, oh, okay, well, alhamdulillah, they found someone better. Because, that person they were living with before was awful. She was useless. He was good for nothing. So, do you see why they do it this way? The smear campaign is a critical part of the reverse discard. And regardless of whether it happens in the beginning or the middle or even the end, you will notice a change in the people's attitude around you. They were nice to you before and now they're acting very strange because of many lies as well that are being fed to them. But during this whole time, they know they're in the wrong and they do feel guilt. The man-child and the woman-child, they do feel guilt because they wouldn't be able to tell people, oh, I've been having an affair or I've been speaking to my ex the whole time. They can't tell people that they've been cheating. So they have to turn the story around so they look like the victims who haven't been treated well. Even if people know you're a good person, they will find it strange. Like, it's not sitting well with me that this person could be abusing my son or my brother or my friend because they're so nice, they're so empathic. But the narcissist always knows how to get around that. They know that, for example, if they were to tell their friends, oh, she's pressurizing me to be religious, she's pressurizing me to make more money, she's pressurizing me to step up as a man, and that's not how I've been raised. If he approaches it from that perspective, they'll side with him, they'll sympathize with him. Okay, so just wanted to make that clear before I move on to the third category, which is the reverse discard that happens towards the end of a relationship. Now, when I say the end of a relationship, I'm talking about people who have been with a man-child or a woman-child for over 15 years. Okay, so this is a long-term relationship now, a long-term marriage. And there are two reasons why a reverse discard would happen. So the first one would be the narcissist self-sabotaged. Okay, they might have been in a very comfortable situation for, let's say, 15 to 20 years. Okay, so they're in a very stable environment and they have a husband or wife or a friend or whoever who has always been there for them. You're very supportive. You're not happy with how the relationship is because you don't feel like a wife or a husband. You don't feel like you're someone who has managed to step into that role fully because you've always had to look after and babysit this man or this woman. But they've become very comfortable and in return they don't abuse you. Okay, when you are someone who doesn't retaliate, you don't argue, you let things slide, you brush things under the carpet, a man-child or a woman-child will be very comfortable with you. Now, whether or not you've caught them doing things is another matter. Okay, because these man-children and women-children don't have back burners, but they do find new supplies. For example, a man-child might have a secret habit of going to massage parlours that are, of a sexual nature, or to prostitutes. So they don't actually have relationships with other people, and that's why the relationship has managed to tick over for such a long time. But every now and again, they get bored and they need sexual fulfillment that they're not getting at home because, like I told you, there's too much maternal and paternal energy in these relationships. It kills the sexual attraction between husband and wife. So they have to go and fulfill their needs elsewhere. So the only way they've managed to let it drag on for so long is because they don't get into relationships or marriages with other people. They just go and fulfill their sexual needs in these kinds of ways. And sometimes it's not a sexual need at all. Sometimes it's gambling, sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's alcohol, sometimes it's other things that they seek a lot of fulfillment from. And you might catch them out a few times. And every single time they beg you for forgiveness. I'm sorry, I love you, I don't want to go, I don't want to get a divorce, I want to stay here, I'll be better, I need to go to rehab, I need to do this, I need to do that. Because you love them so much, you give them chance after chance after chance. And these narcissists do actually love you. Okay, I'll say that. There is genuine love for you. They don't want to leave. They just hope that one day you'll understand that they need this escape. They need this release. But what's infuriating you is that it's haram. You're like, well, I can't sit back and allow you to commit these major sins. I can't sit back and be okay with this. On top of it being disrespectful to me and upsetting for me, I'm not going to give you a pass to go and do all these major sins because it's a need you have. And that's where the issues arise. And then eventually, the empathic codependent will leave after 15, 20 years of marriage because they can't take it anymore. This person is spending all their money on prostitutes and gambling and drugs and all sorts of things. And maybe the man-child is in and out of work. He's not reliable. The woman in the family, she's the one who's the breadwinner. She's the one who's got the secure income. She's the one taking care of everyone. It gets to her. Eventually it will get to her. After 15 to 20 years of doing this and seeing that her husband is not making any change whatsoever to get better, that's the cause for her to leave. Now, after he's been caught a few times, he will realize that she deserves better. Okay, this is the type of narcissistic man-child. He's quite low on the narc scale. He will reverse discard you because he believes you deserve better. He doesn't want you to live this life with him anymore. He no longer feels deserving of having you. He's felt like this for a very long time. He just loves being in your energy. He loves being in your comfort. He loves being in your home. There's a lot of safety there. But he knows that he is not the man whom you need him to be. And he feels terrible about it. He wants to let you go so you can be free from him to live your life, whether you have kids or not. So they self-sabotage everything. They now increase the things that they do that upset you. And, they'll start doing all sorts of irritating, annoying things that will anger you until you walk away. It's done deliberately because he doesn't want to see you suffer with him anymore. Okay, it's a rare case. It's not common, but I have come across people who are in this situation and have been in this situation. And sometimes it can happen with women too. Sometimes women come to this realization that, I need to sabotage this because he deserves better. I need to walk away. It's not fair that he's tortured by living with someone like me. I'm not going to get better. I have no desire. I've got no strength to work on my inner demons. I've got no energy to do any of this work that would make me be a better wife or a better friend. I just can't do it. But I'm seeing him suffer because of having me as a wife. I'm seeing him go through hell. I'm seeing him be so unhappy. I want to see him, do well in life. I want to see him happy and in love and have children and go on to do things and have a wife who looks after him because I know I don't. That's their mindset. So this is the minority. But there will be narcissistic women children who do love you, but not enough to change for you. Not enough to do the inner work. And because they have enough empathy to sympathize with you, they will sabotage the marriage and let you go. They will do awful things so that you finally walk away from them. And they are relieved. They feel a huge sense of relief when you do this because you've freed them from that guilt. You've really freed them. Okay, I'll come on to more about this shortly. But, don't take my framework as being super rigid. If this has happened to you within 5 years of being with a narcissistic man-child or woman-child, then that's fine. I'm just saying that the majority of cases happen, in long-term relationships. But this can also happen to people within 5 to 10 years as well. Okay, so just take what resonates, apply it to your situation, and leave the rest. And you'll always find that the people who struggle to get over these man children and women children, they do so because there wasn't any real abuse in the marriage. So there wasn't any verbal abuse, physical abuse, religious abuse. There was a lot of gaslighting and manipulation, right? Just the normal petty things that narcissists do on a day-to-day basis. But there's nothing in their minds, in the victims' minds, that proved this person to be like a horrible abuser. So they do have genuine love for them. There is love. And every time they go to a sheikh or an imam or a mediator, and then the mediator sees that, well, there's been no abuse. He's a good guy. She's a good woman. And they pressurize them to get back together. And then our sister's like, when is this going to end? I need to get out of here. But mediators and imams push them to get back together for the sake of the children because there's no abuse. But the narcissist can't end the relationship. It has to come from the victim. It's got to come from their partner who is experiencing all of these issues. So, for example, a woman goes to a sheikh to complain that her husband is visiting massage parlours behind her back. And they have an appointment. And then the sheikh's like, he's a good guy. He's repented. He's not going to do it again. He has to show that to the sheikh, because he can't look like the person who is a complete douchebag, right? I'm the one who's cheating and I want to get rid of her. I can't show him that. He's going to show that he's working on the marriage, but what he would love for the sheikh to say to his wife is, end it. Khalas, just walk away if you can't deal with this. But the sheikh says no. He's showing remorse. He's a good guy. He feels bad. Go back and work on your marriage. So she takes that as Islamic advice and goes back and works harder, for his attention. She dresses up for him and he's just getting even more and more frustrated. Instead of being happy that she's making the effort to dress up and all of that, he's getting more angry, more frustrated, because he doesn't want to be there. Not because he doesn't love her. It's because he does love her. And he's seeing how unfair it is to make her go through all of this when it's not her problem. It's not her fault. It's his addiction. It's his major sin. It's his lifestyle that he's chosen to pursue. It's his demon that he hasn't tamed for the sake of saving the marriage. He knows that. He just wants her to end his misery and free him without the guilt and without the shame of being the one who leaves the marriage, even though he's the one with the addiction, he's the one, who's cheating and all of that, because the right thing to do would be to fix the problem and work on the marriage. But because he can't, he feels the shame of that. And he doesn't want to end the relationship on that note. He'd rather be divorced than go through that shame. Okay, hope that makes sense. The second type of narcissist here, who initiates a reverse discard towards the end of the relationship, is the one who feels very emasculated. And this is because he's been heavily parented by his wife during the entire marriage. You can apply this to women too, who feel like they've been married to their dad for 15 to 20 years. And they are now truly sick of it. And the reverse discard happens when they found someone who makes them feel like a man or makes them feel like a woman. So they found new supply at this stage. And this is why so many men go and get a second wife after 20 years of marriage, and why women are caught having affairs during this phase of time, because they just want to feel like they're not a child. Okay, they feel very inadequate and beneath you when they feel that way. They get irritated often, frustrated. They hate you being their mum or their dad. However, they're still benefiting from this, because if a man doesn't have a job, or he has a job with very low income and his wife is funding him, right? She's the breadwinner. A lot of these men, they pretend later to be successful because they're using their wife's money to start a business or get a leg up somewhere. And other women are seeing the outside of this. So if his wife has bought him a nice BMW car, to drive around in, women think, oh, he's a successful guy. And she's doing these things for him to make him look successful. She's trying to save his dignity and his ego. So she wants everyone to think that he's the one who bought the BMW, because it would be shameful for people to find out that she is the one who's funding everything. So she will buy him a nice car, she'll buy him nice clothes, she will go out of her way to do things for him, maybe even get a job for him. She will, consult a few connections who will help him with certain work. And when he reaches a peak, of when he becomes successful, or when he looks successful, and he's getting the attention of young women or women in general who are attractive, and they are attracted to this outward presentation he has of being successful and looking oh so very well groomed, that's when he decides to leave. He really wants to leave, but now he's in a dilemma, because how can I leave when she's done all of these wonderful things for me? I would look like a complete and utter son of a dog if I was to discard her after all this time and after all the money she's given me and after, the way I've used her as a stepping stone to get to what I actually want in my life, which is a woman who looks at me as a man. And the smear campaign starts. Right now he's complaining to everyone about what you're like, your faults, your problems. Again, he'll make up things. I've got marriage problems. He'll go and tell other women this as well. He's lying. He'll go and tell other women who are attracted to him, me and my wife don't get on. Me and my wife are having issues. Me and my wife have had issues for the last 20 years. He's not lying there because he's been her baby for 20 years. And if all else fails, he will just start to, display a terrible attitude. He'll start lashing out because she's not letting him go. He's getting frustrated that she's not taking the hint. And he might even blame black magic. Someone's done black magic on us. Someone's done black magic to split us up. And he will continue with his bad behaviour and blame it on black magic until she gets sick and tired of it and decides to leave. And that's when he'll feel relief. He'll pretend to be upset. Oh yeah, he'll do that. I'll come on to that later. But ultimately, his goal has been accomplished. And now everyone can't blame him for breaking up the family. And the blame will be on her. And in this case, he doesn't care. He really doesn't care. Because he resents her so much for being his mother. And flip it the other way around as well, where she will not care if all blame is on him, even though he worked tirelessly to keep that family together. He sacrificed his entire life for that woman and his children to keep them together. And then she turns around and says, it's all your fault. When she's the one who has created so much drama to the point where it's become unbearable now to deal with her. And she will skip off into the sunset and start a new life. And you find women in their 50s and 60s and they go and marry someone much younger and they go crazy with plastic surgery during this phase because they feel free. They feel that they can be a woman now. They want to be attractive, right? They want that sex appeal. They don't want to feel like a child who's, been married to their parent all this time. That's what happens. That's why they go AWOL. And that's why they go crazy in this phase, because they're trying to make up for all that time when they didn't have that appeal as a man or a woman, and they call this the midlife crisis. Okay, that's when they hit a midlife crisis and you see them acting like 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 60-year-old men acting like 20-year-olds on heat, and 60-year-old women dressing up like 20-year-olds. It looks odd, but this is what happens. When they finally escape a marriage like this, that's what happens. And this is also the outcome when people escape an abusive relationship after so long. So if they're toxic codependent, what will happen is that they will have this severe midlife crisis where they quickly want to make up for everything they missed out on in their lives as a result of being married to an abuser and being very trapped in that marriage. Okay, so the whole midlife crisis thing comes from this. That's what happens. That's what causes it. So as you can see, not all narcissists are the same. And these are the 5 categories of narcissistic reasons as to why they would start a smear campaign and a reverse discard in 3 different times. Okay, beginning, middle, or end. And I'll go on now to list all the signs that someone is being reverse discarded. Okay, you might see all of them or some of them or most of them, but this is what the majority do. So you can apply this to all 3 categories, whether they start it from the beginning, middle, or end. These are the general things they do when they want to push you out of the relationship and cause you to pull the plug on the marriage and walk away. They want you to end it. They want you to initiate the divorce. They want you to be the brave one and just put everyone out of their misery. Okay, because like I said, they're cowards. Even men who have the authority to issue a talaq, they are cowards because they know they're in the wrong. They know they don't have a valid reason to divorce you because the problem is in them. So you'll find that men look pathetic and weak when they reverse discard you because of how selfish they are when they do it. They're not thinking about their children. They're not thinking about all the years and investments you've put into them. They're not thinking about any of that. They're just thinking about what's best for them. And this is why it's very painful to be reverse discarded after all this time, and especially if you love that person and you've done your absolute best to keep your family together and to uphold this image of being a happy family. It's very difficult. It's hard for men and it's hard for women because it's very draining. And I do feel for everyone who has gone through it or is going through it. Okay, so let's jump into the signs. So the first one, as I said, would be the smear campaign. That starts and you start to see the attitude of people changing towards you. And then you'll see dramas over petty issues. And they do this to drain you. So they'll create a huge problem out of something minor. And they'll do this quite often. And they'll be very moody and sulky. And they'll look depressed. And when you ask them, what's wrong? They'll be like, nothing, I'm absolutely fine. You're just seeing things. When you tell them that, you look really depressed, you look really upset, you're really moody all the time, they're like, oh, you're just seeing things. You just want to cause a problem. But it's very obvious that there's something wrong. And sometimes this is a guilty conscience. So if they're cheating on you and they feel bad for it, then they're going to be very moody. But they will gaslight you into thinking that it's just something you're seeing and that you're just trying to irritate them by constantly nagging them about their moodiness. And they never give you an answer for it. And they hope that eventually you'll get sick of it and decide to just walk away. And by the way, this isn't the only thing that they will gaslight you about. They will gaslight you about everything to the max until you feel you really are losing your marbles. Or maybe the last marble you have with them. They'll also push you to reactive abuse. So all this gaslighting, of course, is going to drive you crazy. And when you're having arguments with them, you will lash out maybe. You'll start screaming, shouting, throwing things. I don't know what you do. But whatever it is, it's evidence for them to use in their smear campaign and as justification for their reverse discard. So they might record you, whether that's an audio recording or a video recording. And when you eventually walk away, they will show people that you are the crazy one. So you'll notice that they push you and provoke you for more abusive reactions by stepping up the manipulation of gaslighting. Okay, they will increase all the frustrating things that they do to provoke you. And then when you react in a toxic way, they will hold on to that as an excuse to reverse discard you and to walk away with no guilt. They know they've provoked you to do it, but it's in case anyone wants evidence of you being a toxic person, so they can sympathize with this man-child or woman-child and comfort them and, be like, wow, I can't believe you tolerated all of that. But they did not see what happened behind the scenes. And that's why it's really important to get both sides of the story when it comes to mediation between two people. So they will increase all the things that you don't like, all their bad habits, all the things they told you they were going to stop. They're going to increase them. And it's just going to enrage you. Right? They'll complain about everything. Every minor thing that you do, they'll nitpick on everything until you just get so fed up of living with them, being around them, and it just turns into a nightmare. They do it deliberately to turn your life into a living nightmare, and you wonder, well, if you hate it that much here, then why don't you just leave? Well, that's the whole point. They don't want to be the ones to leave, they want you to end it. Okay? So when they complain about everything, it's not because they're getting ready to leave. They're wanting you to get fed up and be like, well, that's it then. If you're complaining so much, then there's no need for me to be here. You're clearly not happy with me. Goodbye. And they're like, finally, she's got the hint. Or he's got the hint after all this time, after 10 years. Finally, they have decided to stand up for themselves. And it takes people a long time to get the hint because these people talk in riddles. So even when you see them upset or angry or moody and you ask them what's wrong, they never tell you. And they never tell you what it is they want either. They're never clear on what they want and what they need because they don't want you to fix this relationship. They don't want to fix this relationship. They just want you to go crazy and never give you an answer. Because if they give you the answer, then they cannot continue with this terrible behavior. It has to end, and they don't want it to end. So they'll keep confusing you with their answers, or they'll give you the silent treatment, or they'll ignore you, or they just won't give you a clear answer. So you're constantly, moving in circles. You have no idea how to fix this marriage and what to do to make things better. They do this on purpose. And then they tell everyone, and they tell you, oh, you don't understand me. You will never understand me. We're completely different people because what I'm telling you is very clear for a monkey to understand, but you don't seem to be getting it. They know their manipulation. They know what they're doing, but they want you to feel like you will never understand them. You can never please them. You can never do anything right. So they don't give you a clear answer. And they leave you to figure it out, but you never will figure it out because they keep changing the answer and they want you to give up. They want you to stop trying. And like I said before, they're doing this because they feel like they have a lot to lose if they were the ones to initiate the end of the marriage. So they might be hanging around to have their dowry back if you go to apply for a khula. Or they want to keep the dowry, so they're not applying for a khula, and they're forcing you to issue a talaq, or they're waiting for a big inheritance on your side before they leave, okay? There are reasons why they do this, so if they feel like they've got something big to gain from waiting and dragging this whole process out, then they will. But the more they drag it out, the more it's confusing for you, and the more they make you feel like you're stupid because you are seriously unable to figure them out. You don't know how to deal with them. And they use that as an excuse to treat you badly and not give you your rights. Okay, that's when they storm out of the house and give you the silent treatment at every opportunity they can because they just want to go and hang out with their friends. They want to go and visit a back burner. They want to do their own thing. So they create problems in riddles so they can escape. And if you feel like the person whom you're living with is always talking in riddles and they're not clear, it's a huge indication that they are reverse discarding you. And this is a trait you'll see in someone before you even marry them. Okay, a good communicator is someone who's clear, direct, honest. They will explain things properly and in detail if they need to for you to understand so that there are no misunderstandings. If you are marrying someone who's not a good communicator, then be ready for riddles and be ready to be taken on the roller coaster ride of your life because they will play with your psyche until you develop serious mental health problems from all the gaslighting that they will put you through. And these people who can't communicate well, the majority of them are pathological liars as well. That's another indication someone is reverse discarding you when you're constantly catching them out in lies. They're always lying. They can't help but lie all the time. And you catch them out because their stories keep changing. They forget what they told you last week and they give you another version of the story, or they give you another excuse that's different from the one from last week and you're like, things are not matching up. So when someone is constantly lying to you, know that a reverse discard is happening. And I know it's difficult to hear all this. I really do. But you have to enter the mind of the narcissist and understand it from their perspective so you detach from taking it personally. It's got nothing to do with you. It's got everything to do with them and their selfish needs. Okay, it's a huge part of their disorder to be like this. So I'm giving you the narcissist perspective because I don't want you to take it personally, as much as this might sting to hear. Hear it to the end, because the way they think and see the world is very different to empathic people. It's chalk and cheese, black and white, very different. So it helps to get this understanding so that you can detach from this trauma. You can detach from it all being about you. Okay? So another thing they do is constant comparing. They will compare you to everyone. If you're a man, they'll compare you to everyone else's husband. Oh, my friend's husband does this and he does that. My friend's wife does this and does that. And it's constant. They lay it on thick. They'll show you things on social media. They will show you messages and pictures and videos of what other men do and what other women do. And they'll just make you feel like you're not up to their standard, that you're not good enough. And they will keep doing this until they push you out of the door and you say, you know what, if you're not happy, I'm leaving then. I'm clearly not good enough for you, so I'll leave. And sometimes they do reverse psychology on you, so they constantly moan about everything that you nag them about. For example, you ask them to do the dishes. They've left the dishes in the sink and you ask them if they could just clear them up because you've had a really long day and you're tired. And it's just a minor thing for them to do. And they'll turn it into something else. Oh, nothing I do is ever good enough for you. You're always asking. You always want more and more and more. Like, what do you want me to be? A superman, a superwoman? Everything I do you don't see. But when I don't do the dishes, it's a problem. It wasn't a problem. You just asked them to do the dishes. But when you ask them for anything, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, is everything I do not good enough? Is it not enough for you that I take out the bins? Is it not enough for you that I do this and I do that? And you're like, flipping heck, I just asked you to do the dishes. Forget the dishes, I'll do them. Because they've turned it into such a problem. And they create issues from nothing. You'll notice that they increasingly do this. Create issues from nothing. Just so that you guys can have an argument, so they can avoid intimacy. That's another thing. They will create more and more issues to avoid sleeping with you and avoid showing affection because they're trying to push you out of the door. They know that increasing affection and intimacy is only going to keep you there longer. So the more issues they can create and the more barriers they can put between you to stop affection and intimacy, the more it's going to be easier for you to make a decision to leave. Because now there's nothing left. There's no emotional intimacy. They're gaslighting you. They're cold. They're creating problems. You're fighting all the time. You're arguing all the time. There's no love. There's no affection. You're like, you know what? Forget this. I'm not dealing with this. I'm leaving. And the longer you drag it, the more annoyed they get. And sometimes you'll see them turn more malignant because of their frustration that you're not understanding what they're trying to do. So when you are tolerating them, withdrawing emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, affection, and they've got no reason to do it, and you're tolerating it, it just makes them even more angry. You frustrate them. They don't respect you for it because they're wondering what on earth is wrong with this person for them to be tolerating all of this. Why are they accepting it? It just makes them annoyed, and you'll notice that you decide to keep the peace by not making a problem over these things, but somehow it's not making the situation better. They're even more annoyed, and you have no idea why they're more annoyed. You are mind-boggled about how you not causing an issue over the things that they're doing are making them more angry and more frustrated and more moody. This is why. And then they start to withdraw, and their absence becomes more common. They spend more time outside. They spend more time at work. They spend more time with their friends in the evenings. They go out more often than they used to because they're avoiding you, out of hope that that might now trigger you to leave. They are trying loads of different things until they find your trigger point. What is it that's going to make him or her leave? Maybe if I stay out till really late, they'll get fed up. Maybe if I don't do the things they want me to do, they'll get fed up. For example, you might ask them for things. You might ask them for things that you want or things that you need. Maybe a gift, maybe something for your birthday, maybe something for your anniversary, and they don't do it. Your anniversary comes and they've prepared nothing. There are no roses, there's no hotel booking, nothing. This is an indication that this person is trying to reverse discard you because they're not making any effort, or the effort is so poor that any monkey would know that this person doesn't want to be there. Okay? They are deliberately not doing things that they know would make you happy, especially if you've reminded them. By the way, it's our anniversary on Friday. By the way, it's my brother's wedding on the weekend. By the way, it's my birthday on Saturday. By the way, and they don't do anything. Oh, they still forgot. Oh, for Eid, they still didn't do anything for you. They didn't get you anything. But somehow they remember their friends' birthdays and they remember their friends' events and special occasions, and they remember to get things for their friends' kids. But you, nothing. They want you to notice this. They want you to be the one to figure it out, so you leave. Okay, no one's that stupid. People remember these things, but they choose not to when they have a strategy or a plan they are following. So you'll see them act very bored all the time. They're very bored being around you. They're not in love. They're not showing you any kind of love, no romance, nothing. They're not showing you anything. They're not doing anything for you that makes you happy. And then you complain about it. You know, you seem like you don't love me. You seem like you don't want to be here. You're bored. What's wrong? And they'll be like, oh, here we go again. You and your problems. You and your complaining. Don't you ever stop complaining? Will that mouth never shut? Always complaining. Did you not know that there's a hadith that states that women who complain a lot and they're not grateful to their husbands will be the majority in hellfire? Oh, have you heard that hadith? I don't think you have. Let me remind you of it. And they'll stop gaslighting you and manipulating you with Islam and so on. That's where it all comes from. They push you away from intimacy because they're being annoying as hell, and they know very well that when they've pushed your buttons and you're in an angry mood, you're not going to be in the mood for any intimacy. That's when they ask you for it. Okay, because they don't want it. They ask you for it when you're in the worst moods. And when you say no, the hadith springs out. Habibi, did you know that if I go to sleep and I'm not happy with you, the angels are going to curse you all night? Did you know that hadith? I don't think you do. Let me remind you of it. Let me teach you about Islam. But they don't want to sleep with you anyway. But this is how they manipulate you. They will choose the times when they know you're not in the mood because of what they've done to you with all their gaslighting and manipulation and abuse. So they will use this as ammunition against you. When you go to the sheikh later, or an imam or a mediator, they'll be like, well, she never sleeps with me. Every time I ask her, she says no. And then the imam's like, astaghfirullah al-azim. This is haram, sister. This is haram. You are depriving him of his rights. And the woman just wants to scream because these people whom they're speaking to do not understand narcissistic abuse, or they pretend to not understand it because those imams and those preachers are the same men in their homes too. Okay? I said it. That's what it is. When a imam or a preacher, they refuse to understand this psychological abuse, it's because they do it at home 99% of the time. I will give the benefit of the doubt for the 1%. Because again, no one's that stupid. But this is how they build their victim story. Okay, so they will create a horrible environment for you and then ask you for what they need, knowing you're not going to comply, and then be the victim. And sometimes, if the person is malignant, they will force you to sleep with them or comply with their demands, even when you're in the worst mood, because they do it with violence and, threats and all of that. But that's a different type of narcissist. But in this case, the man-child is happy to get away with it, and the woman-child is happy to get away with it. Women love doing this when they're women, children, and narcissistic. Oh, they will create every problem under the sun to avoid sleeping with you when they want to reverse discard you. They can't sleep with you. They get the ick. So they'll create problems until you get fed up and say, I can't deal with this anymore. I just can't. I'm with a woman who doesn't fear Allah. You clearly don't want to be with me. And that's that. And sometimes when you're the one complaining, they'll look at you and be like, well, you know where the door is. You know where the door is. If you don't like it that much, you keep complaining. Well, no one's holding a gun to your head if you want to leave. You're free to go. The door's over there. They're inviting you to end it. You see? Because they don't want to. When they tell you the door is over there, you can walk out. I'm not forcing you to stay. That's a very clear indication that they want you to pull the plug on the marriage. And then you feel bad. You're like, no, I have to work on it. And they've just got their head in their hands. They're like, for God's sake, what's it going to take? What's it going to take to get this person out the freaking door? Sometimes they'll fake being possessed. Sometimes they'll fake an illness. They'll fake taking medication. And they'll tell you, look, I'm seriously ill. I can't sleep with you. I'm possessed. I can't stand to look at you. Something inside me doesn't want to be around you. Something inside me is making you look like Shrek. I just can't look at you. And they'll keep saying such ridiculous things until you decide to leave. Like, you know what? You need a raqi. You don't need a husband. You need to go and sort yourself out. Because there will come a time when you will have enough. And sometimes it's the guilt that makes you stay, because you're like, well, if they're that sick, if they are possessed, then surely as a husband or as a wife, I should be there for them. As their friend, I should be there for them. But you'll notice that they never get better. You might take them to a ruqya practitioner and he'll be like, there's nothing wrong with her. I don't see any jinn issues. She seems to be totally fine. But they insist, no, he's a terrible raqi. He has no idea what he's talking about. I definitely have something. And then they start acting out. They'll start acting out and doing strange things at home to scare you. And they'll be like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to get better. And blah, 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 blah. And eventually you'll notice that they don't even go to their therapy sessions with the raqi. They don't go to any therapy sessions at all. Maybe you've told them that they really need to work on themselves and go to marital counselling, and they don't want to. They're not making any effort. Even if they go to counselling, they're not making any effort. If the therapist is saying, okay, you need to do these exercises and all of this, they're not doing them. They're not bothered at all. They are showing you they aren't bothered about working on themselves. They're not bothered about marital counselling. Nothing. Because they've got someone else in mind, or they're with someone else already in the background, or, like I said, you've got so many reasons that they would be leaving for. They've already got their exit plan there, but they need you to pull the plug. And this takes me on to the triangulation they do between co-wives, for example. So if you're in a polygamous marriage where maybe you're the second wife or the first wife, if he has realised that he has bitten more than he can chew and he needs to get rid of one, he's going to start triangulating. So he'll do things to make one jealous of the other. He will spend more time with the other and give her gifts, and he'll make it known. Maybe she'll post it on her social media. Maybe, he will show that he prefers her. And he's doing all of this because he wants you to be like, well, I'm not staying in this situation anymore. You're not treating us fairly, and I want out. And he's like, goodbye then. And you're just like, what the hell? You're not going to fight for me? You're not going to do anything about it? No, if you really want to leave, then I can't stop you from leaving. If you really want to leave, then khalas, that's your haqq, that's your right. If you want a talaq, I'll give you a talaq. But you're the one who's asking for it. Remember that. Remember that you're the one who asked for the divorce, not me. I would never have gotten rid of you. I don't see anything that I'm doing as being wrong. It's in your head. You're the one who's jealous. You're creating all these problems and you're asking for a divorce because you're jealous of her. You have no reason to be jealous of her, but he's giving her all the reasons to be jealous of her. And then when she asks for a divorce, he emphasizes on the fact that, he's giving her her right and she's the one who's being set free. Like she's the one who wanted it, when actually she's running away from that situation because he's not being just between two wives. It's because he realized he can't handle it. He can't admit it. What kind of a man would he be if he admits that I can't handle two wives? I thought I was the man. I thought I was the big G to handle two wives, but I can't because I have the emotional intelligence of a turtle and it's not possible for me. So yes, he would definitely rather you be the one to end the marriage. And that's that. This is far easier for him to do when the wife is a secret wife. Okay, if she's a secret second wife or third wife or whatever, the more low-key that marriage is, the easier it is to reverse discard her because she doesn't have a family behind her. She doesn't have male relatives behind her to hold him accountable. This is why I keep telling you women, stop getting into secret marriages and dodgy marriages and temporary marriages, because you're used as rebounds, you're used as objects. I know it's hard to process this, but I'm saying this for a reason. It's because these men, these boys, when they want to get rid of you, they will reverse discard you. And sometimes it's in a very short period of time because they can't handle it. They can't be bothered. They've realised that it's just not worth their time and their money and their energy to be dealing with two women who each have their issues. So when it's a secret, it's easy for them to discard you, especially if they're malignant. And if they're not, they'll just reverse discard you and they'll go on to the next supply and the next supply and the next supply and keep doing this. A lot of these men have had loads of wives. They'd never disclose it, but a lot of men have married multiple times this way because it's easy for them. Okay? In order for a marriage to be valid, it has to be announced. Families have to be involved. There has to be a wali if the woman hasn't been married before. And even if she has been married before, if you have good male relatives, bring them. They are your backbone. Show a man that you've got people behind you. You've got to do that. Because a lot of men will drop the idea of marriage when they see a woman who's got lots of male relatives behind her. They'll respect a woman who has. And you'll be very vulnerable if you don't. Especially if you're running away from your family and you're getting involved as a secret second wife because it's your only option. Stop doing that. There are so many other options that you can pursue, but don't go for that because you will get reverse discarded. Most of these guys who are taking secret second wives or second wives in general are man children. Okay, they're man children who don't know how to be a man. They think that having more than one wife is going to make them a man and make them look like a man. It's only the man children who are doing this and the malignant narcissists who do it openly. Okay? Because real men don't get themselves involved in things like this because the accountability for it on the day of judgment is harsh. Okay? Because you're taking on more responsibilities. There are now more people under your care to be accountable for. Real men with a high IQ, they avoid this unless they absolutely have to because they're in a war zone or, they've got good reasons for doing so. So be careful with this. Most women in polygamous marriages will get reverse discarded. And if you found out about a back burner or a new supply, the man-child will reverse discard you by making you jealous about their presence in his life. So you've now found out he's got this female best friend whom you never knew about, and you're jealous about that. And he wants you to know about this. He wants you to know women are giving him attention at work. He wants you to know some woman gave him her number in a restaurant. He wants you to know these things to make you highly insecure. And when you're highly insecure, you'll start acting out in strange ways. And these ways could end up being toxic. You might lash out, you might scream, you might, I don't know what you do. But he will use that against you. And he'll be like, I don't know what you're jealous about. I just told you. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just being a decent guy and telling you that a woman came and flirted with me today in my workplace. And yeah, this is her picture, by the way. She's super hot. He wants you to see that she's super hot. He wants you to be insecure. And when a man is cheating and he wants to reverse discard you, sometimes he will allow you to find out he's been cheating. He'll let you go through his phone and find pictures and texts and stuff, because he's hoping that that will be the final trigger for you, because he's tried so many things before and that didn't work. And you've caught him cheating before and he promised you that he wouldn't do it again, and you told him if you ever catch him doing it again, or if you ever catch her doing it again, then it's over. He's like, khalas, that's what I'm going to do then. That's the only way they're going to leave. I have to let them catch me out. I have to leave evidence lying around for them to see, so they finally lose it and tell me to leave, tell me to go. So sometimes you think, is he stupid to leave his phone like that with all the messages and all the photos? And, you know, sometimes they do it deliberately. And when do you know that they've done it deliberately? When they walk away very easily after you tell them to leave. Okay, if you tell them to leave and it's over and you're not accepting this cheating anymore, and they're like, okay, I understand, ma'as salama, and they just let you go. They'll issue a talaq if they need to, or they'll sign the divorce papers without any problems. That's when you know they left the evidence there for you deliberately. They wanted you to see it. They want you to see that they've been flirting with their male co-workers. They want you to see that they have been flirting with their boss via email. And they have the audacity to make it look like they're doing something very normal, because they want to trigger you to the point of the whole marriage or relationship ending. Sometimes it's not cheating they do with the opposite gender. There are no backburners or anything like that. But you'll find evidence that they haven't stopped their addictions, such as watching pornography, paying women on OnlyFans, drugs, smoking, gaming, and anything else problematic that they promise to stop. They might leave evidence to show you that they haven't. Okay? They're back to smoking, back to drinking. They've been going to clubs and casinos. They've been gambling. They will let you see that they're still doing that, so you lose your mind and tell them to get out. You tell them to leave. They don't want to shame themselves in that way, but sometimes they have to, because nothing else is working. Okay, they have to lower themselves to show you that they're still weak, they're still, addicts. And they do this out of desperation. Now, the one thing they never want you to find out is if they're gay. Even if they leave evidence around that they've been watching like gay pornography, or they've been conversing in a strange way with people of the same gender, even if you find that evidence, they will deny it to the moon and back. Okay, that's the one thing that if they stupidly leave evidence of, they will never admit it. They will never want you to find out something like that, because they worry about their reputation. But if you were to go and tell people that he's a gambler, that he smokes, that he takes drugs, he smokes weed, he watches pornography, he knows people aren't really going to care about that. But for it to come out in the community that he's gay, no. You can't do that. So they're not going to leave evidence like that lying around. And if you find evidence like that, it's unintentional. They never wanted you to see it. It's out of stupidity that they left something like that behind on their laptop, on their iPad, on their phone. They might even blame their own granddad for being the last one to use the iPad or the phone. They'll say anything they have to save themselves. Oh, they'll say anything. And poor grandpops gets the blame for what you have unfortunately seen. But in his mind, he's thinking, rather him than me. Rather him than me. These narcissists will throw anyone under the bus to save themselves. Now, another thing men do in this situation will be to quit their job and remain unemployed for very long periods of time. And they do this to frustrate you. They believe that this will be your trigger point. So if they are without work for 6 months, 8 months, a year, and you can see that they're not actively looking for work, and if they find work, they're picky. I don't like that. I don't want to work in an office. I don't want to work in a workshop. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. The pay is not good. They nitpick on everything because they don't want to have a job. They don't want to get anything with any pay, so that you are put under so much financial pressure to provide, and you snap one day and you say, look, I'm not dealing with this. I want a divorce. And that's the day they were waiting for. Okay, and then you'll notice you get a divorce and all of a sudden they've got a very good job. And this job pays very well. And they're moving on with their life and everything is good. When someone refuses to get a job or is very lazy about finding a job when they're married, but after the separation or after the divorce, they find a good job and they make the efforts that are required and all of that, know that they did it to reverse discard you. Especially if you know you're a good person who tried to make the marriage work. Okay, I'm not talking about the people who are finally free from an abuser and their life gets better. No, I'm talking about those who needed to fulfill their duties and responsibilities but chose not to because they wanted to create problems. They knew their unemployment would create problems. They knew that the constant nagging for them to find a job will really have a huge strain on the marriage and it will cause a divorce eventually. They hang around and they wait for that moment or that day to finally come. Now, if none of that works, if all of this behaviour and all of these tactics and all of these strategies don't work, then what's going to happen is the man-child is going to turn malignant. Okay? They descend further into their narcissism. And you'll start to see their brutal side. You'll start to see their physically abusive side. You'll start to see the darkness come out of them. Because now they're thinking, I have to show my fangs now. I've got to show the beast that's been living inside me all this time. It needs to show its face for this person to leave. And they start to become very abusive. They start smashing things, yelling, screaming, shouting, raging. And you're sat there wondering, who on earth have I married? What monster is this? But the monster will come out when all efforts have been exhausted. And that's how the man-child turns malignant with time. When you haven't taken the hint after all of these years, or after all this time of them making every effort to push you out of the relationship because they are desperate to remain a victim. When they get to breaking point and they know that they have to show their brutal side in order to end this marriage, then they will. And they will be so damn angry about it because they will blame you for pushing them to that point. Because this is a side of them they never wanted you to see. They wanted to remain the victim, the innocent person in all of this. But you have forced the fire-breathing dragon to come out of them. And this is particularly bad when it's seen in a woman as well. Men who have seen this in their wives have been seriously traumatized because the wives display extreme psychotic behavior when they reach this stage. Okay, they will literally pull their hair out, jump up and down. They'll stab themselves with sharp objects and it's horrible. I've heard horrible accounts of this. It can be really traumatizing. And it's in those times of rage they will goad you for a divorce. They'll shove you into a corner and they'll scream at you to divorce them. They will demand that you issue a talaq. They will demand so many things. But you're so worried that if you issue a talaq, or if you say to them, okay, fine, I'll do what you want, it's going to make things worse. So you don't. You don't. The situation is already out of hand. It's already beyond what you can handle. And you're worried that if you do say something like that, and they're just calling your bluff, it's going to make things 10 times worse. So it works for some people. Some women might just pack their bags and run after they see that face of their husband. And some will just wait until the person calms down and then they talk. But eventually a divorce will happen. After you see that side of them, you will not be able to stay with them. You can't, you'll be terrified. You will actually be terrified when you see those dark eyes come out. When their qareen comes out and shows his face, I'm telling you, most people will run for the hills. But they will hate you and they will resent you for that for life, because you've ruined their victim story. You've ruined their image as a person who has been suffering with you all this time. You've taken that away from them and they resent you for it. Okay, so please know the signs before it gets to this stage. Their rudeness will increase, their frustration will increase, and they will give you the attitude of, like, what more do you want to see? What more do you want me to do to show you that you need to leave? There's nothing more that I could possibly do to reverse discard you at this point. So they're left with no other option but to show you the beast. Don't let it get to that stage, because I promise you it's traumatizing. If you feel that you're being reverse discarded and you're going through all of these signs, you're seeing all of this, then do yourself a favor and walk away from the relationship as soon as you can. Okay, because wallahi, it only gets worse. They will just treat you with so much more disrespect, because in their mind they think you're stupid to not understand all of these signs. They have no idea why you're blocking all of it out. So they believe you're just desperate to stay. And it makes them even more frustrated when they see you work harder to please them, work harder to make this marriage work. They don't want it to work. If they wanted it to work, they'd make the same efforts. It's a two-way thing. Okay, one hand can't clap. You can't be making all the efforts and them not doing anything. It's never going to work that way. You need to be working on this marriage with them for it to be sustainable. So it would just make them angry. I'll tell you this 100 times. It would just make them more angry because they feel imprisoned and they need to be set free by you walking away. Now, whether or not they regret this later is a different subject for another podcast. But in that moment in time, that's what they want. Okay? So what happens after you walk away? Okay, what do they do when you finally stand up for yourself and you reclaim your self-respect and dignity and you say, I'm done, you win, I'm getting out of here? What happens after that? Well, there are different outcomes. It's not just them walking off into the sunset. There are different reactions and they're all manipulative, so it's good for you to be aware of them. So the first one that most people know about is that they just ghost you, they walk out of your life, they don't fight for you, they don't look back, they just move straight on to a new situation. Whether that's a new wife, new husband, back burner, a new job, a new lifestyle, a new country, a new city, they just move straight on. It's like you freed them from prison and they just walk and don't look back. Okay? And they act like you never existed. They really do. And this is very painful for a lot of people because it's the moment you realise that they've been waiting for that moment and you realise that they didn't love you. They just swiftly moved on. Okay, that's the main one. And in this scenario, sometimes They may want to stay friends. And you will have contact with them if you're co-parenting with them, so they're not going to block you. They might still keep you on their social media. They just think, that's it. We go our separate ways. I'm going to move on with my life, finally. And you do whatever it is that you've got to do. We can co-parent. They're not a nightmare to co-parent with because they're just so happy they're free. So these are not people who will, cause havoc and chaos in your life after they leave. They won't block you everywhere either, but you will notice that they actually become more pleasant to deal with after they leave. If you have children or business or money between you. If you don't, you won't hear from them again, but they won't brutally block you everywhere and any of that. You may still see their social media, they might still see yours. That's if you haven't blocked them because you don't want to hear from them ever again. But I'm just giving you this scenario. Now, the second thing they might do is more manipulative and confusing, because when you do decide to walk away and end the relationship or the marriage, they make you feel guilty for it. They start crying. They start having a tantrum. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I can't believe you're leaving. I can't believe this and I can't believe that. And you're like, hold on a second. After everything you've done to reverse discard me, why are you crying now and making me feel guilty for leaving? Why are you accusing me of breaking up the family? Why are you accusing me of not trying hard enough to fix this marriage? Why are you making me feel guilty for putting myself first now? Believe me when I tell you this, it's a part of their victim story. It's just to put the stamp on their victim status, to confirm it. Okay, because they want you to talk about how you saw them cry and how you saw them go into like a little mini depression because, you packed your bags and you're leaving and you're super confused at this point. But everyone they speak to, they cry to. They tell everyone this huge sob story. Can you believe it? They're leaving me. Can you believe it? She's actually packing her bags and she's done with this marriage. She doesn't want to work on this marriage. After 20 years of us being together, she's being selfish and she's not thinking about me or the kids. That's what they're telling everyone. Because they want to hold on to their status of being a victim. But if you were to turn around and feel sorry for them and say, okay, no worries, we don't have to do this. Let's work on this marriage. Let's get a marriage counsellor so we can work through our issues. I'm telling you, he'd probably go and jump off the nearest building he can find. Because that's the last thing they want to hear. And honestly, they won't even let you finish that sentence. They won't. You'll be in the middle of the sentence and they'll be like, but it's okay. It's okay. You do what's best for yourself. I understand. And they'll push you out. Okay? Khalas, the damage is done. You've broken my heart. There's no coming back from this. There's no coming back. I'm destroyed. I'm finished. There's no way I could take you back after what you've just said. I can't believe after everything I've done for you, you want to leave me and the kids. That's it. We're finished. I'll never forgive you for this. So again, they're refueling their victim story to make you feel bad, to make it look like you are the one who is sabotaging the marriage. You're the one who's going crazy. You are the one who is breaking up the family. And before you know it, they've already signed those divorce papers. Oh, they'll sign those papers in a flash before anything else can come up. Before any imam gets involved, before any mediator comes along, just give me those divorce papers and get me out of here. Okay, they make it very easy for you. But the cruel trauma they leave you with is the self-blame, because you'll go through so many years of blaming yourself for that marriage ending, and you'll blame yourself for breaking up the family. You will believe what they've said, and you could fall into a deep depression because of it. You'll always feel guilty. And one thing that narcissistic women do so much to men is they will goad them for a divorce. So they'll say things like, if you're a real man, you'll divorce me. If you're a real man, you'll hit me. If you're a real man, you'll do this, you'll do that. And they push and push and push you to issue those talaqs. Let's say you've reached the third talaq now. Okay, maybe it's her toxic trait to demand a divorce every time you guys get into the worst arguments, and now you're on your third talaq. If you issue that third talaq, khalas, it's finished, right? You can't take her back after that. So you guys get into a huge argument. She's raging. She's gone into her toxic rant again, where she's demanding a divorce. And she's really riled you up, but this time you've had enough. This time you're like, you know what? I am not dealing with this circus anymore. I'm leaving this joker behind. And she feels comfortable doing this and safe doing this because her friends and family members have told her, don't worry, get rid of this guy. You're beautiful. You're still young. You'll find a rich man. You'll find so many men who will fall at your feet. Get rid of this guy and get married to someone who is a much better man. So she's fueled by the other narcissists in her life and her backburners who are, influencing her and encouraging her to leave this marriage, and she's brutally reverse discarding him. Okay, so now she's entered her malignant phase where she's being horrific, really nasty. Like when you see that face, you don't even want to stay with a woman like that anymore. Honestly, it doesn't matter how beautiful she is. Once you see her qareen come out, once she goes into her satanic rage, it's finished. You'll never see that beauty again. And it's the same for men who are really good looking. Once you see them go into their narc rage and you see the ugliness come out, you will never be attracted to them again. You'll always feel sick when you look at them because you can't believe how hideous they looked when they were in that rage. You can't stop thinking about it. It doesn't leave your mind. It literally haunts you. So she's cornered you. It's the last talaq and you've decided to give it. And then for a moment, she's shocked. Okay, she can't believe that you actually had the bravery to issue the final talaq. She knows now it's over. So she's pretending to be really happy. She might cackle like a witch, right? She'll give you that evil laugh and she'll go skipping off, packing her bags, and she'll just have this psychotic moment where it looks like she's just run out of a mental asylum because she's doing the strangest things. She's acting like she's possessed, singing, laughing, joking, packing her things, and, just being mean. And she will throw at you every offensive comment. She'll tell you everything she hates about you. She's telling you about all the men she could marry, all the options who are going to fall at her feet. She's telling you about how she's going to live her life and how she's going to be free and have the job she wants, and she's going to travel everywhere, and she's going to take off her hijab and wear mini skirts and do everything that she knows he doesn't like her to do. She's going on and on and on and on about this. He might pack his stuff. He might leave. Let's say they have children between them. What will happen about a month later? Okay, she might take him to court. She might say, well, I want to secure child maintenance for them. I want to secure alimony, spousal support. And I want to make sure that I get all my financial rights out of this divorce. So he's already prepared himself for this. He's not too fussed about her having primary care of the children. Remember, we're talking about someone who's a fairly decent guy. He's not going to make her life a living hell. So he's being nice, right? He's being nice. He's like, I'm just so glad I'm rid of this satanic woman, this fire-breathing dragon. I'm glad she's out of my life. And then she starts to see that he's actually relieved that he's rid of her. And quickly it catches up with her that she might have made a huge mistake. And even if she doesn't feel that yet, she will want to guilt trip him to traumatize him. And what she will do, okay, she's the least God-fearing person he knows, but she will start posting, things on her Instagram stories and posts and, Allah is watching. Allah will hold you accountable because you divorced me. I can't believe you divorced me. And he's thinking, what the hell is this woman on crack? You're the one who cornered me and forced me to divorce you on multiple occasions, and I did what you wanted. But she turns it on him, and she starts a huge smear campaign of him and tells everyone what a monster he is because he divorced his wife and he's got 3 small children. He's been telling her for the last 10 years, I don't want to divorce you because we've got children. I don't want to divorce you and have our kids be raised in 2 different homes. I want them to have a stable home to be raised in. She's like, no, I don't care. Divorce me. If you're a real man, divorce me. But in her smear campaign, in her victim story, she is going around telling everyone how cruel this man is. Like, can you believe it? He divorced me. Can you believe it? He just left his children. Just like that. I asked him to divorce me, and in a flash, he divorced me. And then she tries to find ways to come back. Habibi, there's no coming back after the 3rd one. Now you really do have to go and find someone to get married to. Let your family go and help you, the ones who egged you on. Go and get married. But she knows that even if she does get married, this guy will never take her back again. And now it infuriates her because she knows he was a good guy. She knows he was good to her. But her ego is hurt that he actually did divorce her. And it was the right thing for him to do. In situations like this, I do believe that it's in a man's best interest to get out of the situation, and it will save the children from seeing such a toxic marriage as well. I never encourage people to stay in a situation like this. So if you have a Medusa of a wife who is constantly cornering you and demanding a divorce, and she's an absolute nightmare to live with, no, you're better off out of there. Your mental health will be destroyed. Your physical health will be destroyed. Wallahi, it's not worth it. As a woman, I'm telling you. As a sister, I'm telling you, it's not worth it. I've seen men who had such great potential be destroyed in ways you can't imagine because of women like this. And for what? For 2 children who would have been better off living in a peaceful home with their dad than having to see this day in and day out. A cruel, narcissistic mother who's constantly reverse discarding her husband. And apply this the other way around as well. Okay, but this is what a lot of them do. They start using Islamic quotes about hell and accounting and Allah is watching and Allah will take my rights on the day of judgment because you have oppressed me and you have left me without rights and you have, wronged me by divorcing me. What kind of man are you to divorce your wife when you have young children? Oh, shut up, woman. I have 0 tolerance for people like this. 0. And she will get other people to tell you the same thing. That you should have feared Allah when issuing that 3rd divorce. That you should have been more patient. That you should have done this and done that. But what will happen is that, unfortunately, many men fall for this. And they go into a depression. Because now they're panicking. Did I do the wrong thing? Is Allah going to hold me accountable? Because they're God-fearing. So now they're worried when they see these WhatsApp statuses and these WhatsApp profile pictures about Allah will hold the oppressors to account. When they see things like that on the profiles of their ex-wives, they panic. They get scared. They worry that, they really have oppressed this woman and their children, and they go into this deep, dark hole. And it's hard for them to get out of it because there's no way back now. And they might go to this sheikh and that sheikh for a fatwa. And, is it possible for me to go back to my wife? I said this in anger. I said this when she was raging and she forced me to divorce her. Is it wrong of me to go back? Is it wrong of me to take her back as my wife? Am I committing haram? And he's trying to gather all these fatwas from all over the world because he just wants a sheikh to make him feel better. But the majority of sheikhs say, no, you're done. That's it. There's no way back. And it just causes him to fall into despair when he hears about this, not knowing that she's manipulating him the whole time. While she's doing all of this, she's out doing everything she wants. She's already on Muzmatch. She's already, flaunting herself all over social media. She's already traveling and applying for jobs and leaving her kids with a nanny or leaving her kids with her family while she goes out with her friends, and they go clubbing and they go to lounges and they go to all sorts of places. Don't be fooled and manipulated by people like this. If they had any fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do you think that they would have got you to this point? Challenge them to tame their inner demon for just 5 minutes. They can't. Or to go for a whole day without being a satanic vampire before they tell you about your accounting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and who's going to hell and who's going to heaven and who's going to be punished and whatnot. Wallah, take it with a pinch of salt and move on with your life. Stop being manipulated by these people. Don't become a fool by falling for the manipulation of people whom you know have no fear of Allah. They have no regard for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They never did. They never did throughout your whole marriage. So why are you taking it seriously now? They know when to manipulate you with religion. They know when to make you feel like trash. They know when to take out the hadiths and the Quran verses to support their victim story. Oh, they know how to do all of that. They'll whip it out when needed. Just ignore them. Seriously, just ignore them. Move on with your lives and let them face the consequences of their actions. But the whole thing was a reverse discard. And more women than men regret the reverse discard because they never do go to a better situation. They never do find that rich, handsome man, the 6'5" blue-eyed man in finance. Do you think someone like him is going to look at a woman like her? I don't think so, mate. And she will resent you later because she stayed single for a lot longer than she thought she would, especially as a single mother. Everyone's finding it hard out here to find a decent guy and a decent woman. These people always regret leaving a good situation. Okay? So, that's that for you. If they come along again with any Quran verse or hadith to try and guilt trip you, just tell them to jog on, Sharon. Now, another thing they might do is block you everywhere. Okay? And when the marriage is over, they will block you, delete you, remove you from everything. Social media, TikTok, Facebook, everything. You know why? Because they don't want you to see who they've jumped to. They don't want you to see that they've got back with their ex, or the back burner whom you warned them about, the person whom they told you was just a friend or a cousin or a friend of the family. Okay, the person you were always suspicious of, and they kept insisting that there was nothing and that it's just in your head and that you're seeing things. They don't want you to see that they've jumped straight into another marriage or a relationship with those people. Okay, they're very embarrassed. They don't want you to see any of it. They're not flaunting it on social media because if they do, they will know that you have realized that all that behavior was a reverse discard because they were having an affair with someone else, or because they're gay, or because they got back with their ex. Okay? All that time they were future faking you, pretending that they were happy with you and that you were both going to have a great future, but then all of a sudden they switched halfway through the marriage or the relationship and they started acting strange and the reverse discard started. It's because they got back with someone. And they block you because they don't want you to see that 2 weeks after your divorce, they're married or they're engaged. And in some cases, you might find that 4, 5, 6 months after your divorce or your breakup, they're having a baby with someone else, which means the woman was pregnant while you guys were together. He doesn't want you to see any of that. None of it. So he goes off the grid. And if you do find out, it will be through mutual friends, or it will be from the back burner, or the new wife or the ex-wife, because she might plaster it all over her social media. And he has no idea that you have access to that account, or maybe you created a fake account and you're watching, all the things that people do. And he doesn't want to be confronted about it. So he'll block you everywhere. He doesn't want to talk because he has no idea how to explain himself in that situation. The same goes for a woman who immediately gets married straight after her iddah. And it will be to a man whom she's known before. Her male friend, her colleague at work, her ex-brother-in-law, someone like that. He will be somebody whom her husband knew. So she will block her ex-husband everywhere so that he doesn't see that his suspicions of her having an affair with that guy were actually real. They were valid. So that's what happens when they reverse discard you and leave you for someone you know. And then the last thing that I'm going to speak about, and this is something that I don't find people really talking about, but this can really mess someone up. And it's when you go through the entire reverse discard process with them. So they've really pushed you out of the relationship now. They've withdrawn. They don't show you love. There's no kindness. There's no affection. They're cold. They're empty. They're like zombies in the relationship. Robots. And you have no idea what happened or what you did. And all you know is that they're unhappy. So after a long, hard think, you think, you know what, this isn't going anywhere. I can't communicate with them. They're not willing to talk. Let me just set them free. So you agree to a divorce. You agree to go your separate ways. And this type of narcissist, this man-child, woman-child, will feel very relieved, that you've ended it, finally. They wanted you to do that for so long because the pressure was too much on them. Your expectations of them were very high, and they want to go back to their old life. They want to go back to a back burner. They want to pursue a different lifestyle, or they want a job in another country, but they feel guilty for leaving the family behind and pursuing their dreams. It could be anything like that. So you decide to end it. And they don't fight for you. There's no sadness. There's no grief. They actually get angry. Again, they show that they're brokenhearted. They show that they're upset. You never loved me. I know you never loved me. This just proves to me you never cared about me. How can you discard me so easily? You must be a narcissist. Because only narcissists discard people because they don't meet their expectations, and I clearly was never good enough for you, and I bet you found someone else, and I bet you want to, get married to someone who's rich and someone who's famous and someone, who's better looking. They just go to town with all this bitterness on you when they have no right to, because of this whole reverse discard that they have put you through and the smear campaign that they have launched against you behind your back with their family and friends, right? These are the ones who drip the faults that they find in you to their family and friends and the issues that you have between you. This could start from the beginning or from the middle. And they accuse you of being a narcissist. They accuse you of being fake. They accuse you of, being a fake person the entire relationship. And they accuse you of being a liar because you always told them, I'll never leave you. I'm in this for life. I'll never be the one to walk away from you. And then they hold you accountable for that, even though they are the ones who told you that from the beginning. Let me tell you something. When someone tells you from the very beginning, I will never be the one to end a marriage. I will never be the one to divorce you. I'm in this for life. If anyone is going to end the marriage, it will be you. This person is going to reverse discard you. They've already told you from the very beginning Okay, they're like, I'm the kind of person who is committed for life. If anyone's going to end it, it will definitely be you. How do they know that? How do they know that it will definitely be you? It's because they know what they're like. They've done it before, and it works. So when they say to you, I'm in this for life, I will never leave. I don't care what you do to me. I don't care what happens. I don't believe in divorce. I will never walk away. Okay, how are you to know what's going to happen in the future? Maybe you do want to walk away, but no, they guarantee it for you. And this gives you a false sense of security, and you feel like you found your soulmate. Oh my goodness, finally, someone who's not going to abandon me, and you pour your all into that person. And when you pour your all into them, the reverse discard becomes 10 times more powerful because you give yourself the space to love them so much because you trust them. And you see that even when they're unhappy, they stay with you because they're showing to you that they are keeping their promise. Even if I'm unhappy, I'm not going anywhere. And it's because they're putting you through a reverse discard. They always have to come out the victim. They never end a relationship or a marriage because they always have to come out the victim. So it's a red flag when someone says that to you from the very beginning. Because someone with dignity and self-respect and self-value can easily say, if I ever get abused, I will leave. If you cheat on me, I will leave. Like, I have enough self-respect to not tolerate things like this. But when you have someone who tells you no matter what you do, no matter what happens, I will never divorce you, it's a red flag now. We're not living in the 1950s for this to actually mean something. Now it's manipulation, unfortunately. Okay? So they get bitter. They throw it on you. Our marriage vows didn't mean anything. You just lied the whole time. I told you it's not going to be me who ends it. I told you it's not going to be me who wants the divorce. I told you it's going to be you. You see? Do you understand what I mean now? Everyone abandons me. Go ahead and abandon me like everyone else did in my life. They guilt trip you. And you feel terrible. But they don't want to make it work. You tell them the reasons why you're leaving. I'm leaving because of these problems. And these are issues you don't want to fix. But they still throw the same words at you. They ignore everything you're saying. They ignore everything you're telling them to fix so that you can both continue in this marriage because they don't want to fix it. They don't want these solutions. They know what the problem is, but they want out. So they make a dramatic exit where they pretend to be so heartbroken and they mope about and they're depressed and their family is telling you, I've never seen him so depressed. I've never seen her so unhappy. She's been crying all week. She's not going to work. She's not eating. She's not sleeping. And you're thinking, what on earth is going on? I'm so freaking confused. If he loved me that much, or if she loved me that much, she would fix the problems that I've been having with her or having with him. But it doesn't make any sense. They prefer to walk away than to address the things that they can change if they wanted to. But they don't want to. That's how you know it's a reverse discard. Okay, when they really truly love you and they're not just putting on a show at the end, they will do everything in their power to not lose you. They will never walk away from you. They will never want to see you with someone else. They will want you for themselves, and they will do everything in their power to address everything on that list you've given them. But when they create a drama and ignore everything on that list, and they decide to play the victim or the damsel in distress, it's a reverse discard. They've got something else that they want to go to. And then to make it even worse, this is the part people don't talk about. They'll send you a letter, or they'll send you a long WhatsApp message, or a long voice note, or whatever it is, email maybe, where they tell you how much they loved you, and you were their world, and you were their soulmate, and they can't imagine life without you. And then they list all the things that they loved about you and what they're going to miss about you. They might list a few memories you guys had that were really good. And they'll say that it's a shame it didn't work out and that they'll always remember you. They'll never forget you. You were the best person who ever came into their life. You were the rare one. You were the one who got away. You were the one who brightened up everything dark in their life. And that their children will always ask about you and miss you. And that maybe you'll find yourself back together in another lifetime or in another place or another planet. And that they will always love you and that they wish you the best. This is the cherry on the top that really screws with your head. They wish you the best and they hope that you find the man of your dreams or the woman of your dreams because that's what you deserve. And that's it. You don't ever hear from them again. Or you hear a short while later, like a few weeks or a few months later, that they're married to someone else or engaged and whatnot. And this is what can cause so many people to not get over a man-child or a woman-child because of this very deep confusion. And they leave you stuck in this horrible feeling that you've lost your soulmate. You've lost the love of your life and there's nothing you can do about it. And you're really struggling to heal from this and move on. You're constantly thinking about them, constantly dreaming about them. And you replay your entire relationship or your entire marriage and wonder where it went wrong. Whose fault was it? Was it mine? Was it theirs? What on earth went wrong? What happened? You don't get any answers. You figure it out later when you see them married within 3 months to someone else. You start putting all the pieces together and it hits you like a ton of bricks, what you had been dragged through. But this letter they wrote you, if you don't understand that it's manipulation, it will scar you for life. Because it will be a wound you'll never be able to heal, because he's left you with that feeling that you've lost something great. Okay? Now let me tell you why they send you a letter like that, or an email or a message like that. It's because if they ever need to hoover you one day, they know you'll open your arms to them. Because in your mind, they have programmed you to believe that they are your soulmate. So if it doesn't go well for them where they've gone to, they can come back and they will be fulfilling their dream of finding you again in another time. It's serious manipulation. If you ever get a letter like this or a message, delete, burn, tear it up, get rid of it. Because this is a letter from the shaitan. He doesn't want you to move on. And even if a great man or a great woman comes into your life later, you won't be able to commit to them and love them properly because a part of you will always be waiting for your soulmate to come back. It's not good for you. And the pain of this can be so much worse when they do have children whom you became attached to. Okay? So if they were a single father or a single mother and you loved their children and you became attached to them, it can be very difficult and heartbreaking to lose this person, because it's not just one heartbreak now, it's multiple heartbreaks if they have more than one child. So if they've got one child, it's 2 heartbreaks. If they have more, it's going to be more painful. So be very careful who you choose to marry. If they are a man-child, wallah, you're setting yourself up for a very deep heartbreak. If they're a woman-child, same thing. They will abandon you at some point. They will. Because the reverse discard is always their exit plan. It's only a minority who don't. Only a minority will work on themselves and improve themselves as Muslims and as men, as women, and they will step up into the roles Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked them to fulfill. But the majority are lazy. The majority are overpowered by their qareen and their lower self, their lower nafs, and their immaturity. They really need to work on their emotional intelligence and their maturity. And this can take a long time. If you're waiting around for them to grow in all of these areas, you're going to waste your life. These are people who have to work on themselves before they get involved in any marriage. It's not your job to fix them. I've said this 1,000 times. Your job is not to fix or heal them. Help them by all means if you see that they're helping themselves. If they're not, stop parenting them. They will resent you, they will hate you, and they will abandon you later. So don't even bother. Don't waste your time and your energy and your resources and your money on people who don't want to grow up. Okay, people who have Peter Pan syndrome. They're not good for you or your children or any future children you might have with them. So if you're unmarried, I hope that this has helped. And do like the podcast if you found it helpful and beneficial. Please do share it with others whom you feel could benefit from this. Do subscribe to the channel for future podcast releases. And do grab a copy of the book, The Muslim Narcissist, if you haven't already. And if you need one-to-one counselling and coaching, you can find the link below to submit an application or just email me directly. And if you have a quick question, you can always post it under the podcast. It's great when people do this because people can benefit from the answers as well. And I'm thinking of doing a follow-up podcast to this about the reverse Hoover. So if you would like a podcast about the reverse Hoover, do click like on this podcast so I can see how many of you relate to this subject. And yeah, I really hope you found it helpful. Thank you if you're still listening until now. So I was actually hoping to make this podcast an hour and a half long, but hey ho, I have to include so many examples and details so that you find this as healing and as educational as possible. So forgive me for them being so long. I do record them with the intention that you do find healing and closure by the end of them. So thank you again for listening. Inshallah, until the next podcast. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.